Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy, back with another fanfiction. This is the first part of What If Issei joins the ILUNA Academy. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. Within the Hyoudou residence, Issei Hyoudou got up from his bed, feeling rather tired as he yawned. It was clear that he had pulled an all-nighter, evident from the bags under his eyes. The previous night, he had spent time with his two friends, Matsuda and Motohama, watching anime together. They were known as the perverted trio of Kuoh Academy. This year marked Issei's second year at the academy, which had started about a month ago. He needed to get up bright and early, so he quickly changed into his usual attire, a red shirt paired with his black and white Kuoh Academy blazer, black pants, and white and blue sneakers. This uniform had become iconic for him. After washing his face with cold water to wake himself up, he looked in the mirror, smirking and giving himself a thumbs up. "All right, I look good as new," he said to himself. He made his way to the living room, packing his bag as he prepared to leave, only to be stopped by his parents. Issei's father, Kuoh Hyoudou, and his mother, Issei Hyoudou, appeared happy as they called out to him. Kuoh had a similar hairstyle to Issei's, though slightly different, and was dressed formally. Issei, though a bit older, was still beautiful in Issei's eyes. "Issei, we need to share something very important with you," Kuoh said. "Yes, I would consider it great news," Issei added. Issei blinked a few times, unsure whether this was important or not. He knew he needed to get to school, but he also understood he couldn't go against his parents. While he was rebellious in a playful sense, he loved his parents. They were aware of his interests and thought his friends were bad influences, which he sometimes admitted to himself. However, his pride as a young man outweighed the concerns about his friends. He sighed, preparing himself as he took a seat to listen to what his parents wanted to say. "Yes, Mom, Dad?" he asked. His parents sat across the table, and he felt a little nervous. Issei couldn't describe the moment, but it felt like one of the biggest decisions of his life was being presented to him. "Son, we know how much you enjoy attending Kuoh Academy, but your activities have been causing you to get into trouble too often," Kuoh explained. "We received calls last year about you causing problems for other students at school," Issei added. "Oh, I can't really deny that. But I can't help it. My friends and I really like girls. No matter who they are, and my dream is never so far out of reach," Issei replied. "While we appreciate your enthusiasm, your education is suffering," Kuoh said. "We've come to a decision." Issei gulped. Although he felt confident expressing his passion, a sudden chill ran down his spine, making him more worried than ever. "We're going to be transferring you to another school," Issei announced. "Wait, what?" Issei exclaimed, shocked and upset. He couldn't believe his parents would do something like this. He was surprised because he hadn't expected to be transferred, and he felt upset about missing the chance to see the girls at Kuoh Academy. He had taken pride in his status there, regardless of how the girls viewed him. He had a clear goal in mind, and it was disheartening to think that the student council president had reported his actions to his parents. "Your activities are limiting your education, and we think sending you to that academy was a mistake," Kuoh explained. "However, we recently received a call from another academy that is willing to take you in," Issei added. "We were deciding whether to let you attend another school or not." That's right. The caller was the principal of an academy that selects its students carefully. "Although you will be a little late, we believe this is what's best for your education," Kuoh said. "Wait, I'm being sent to another academy? But..." Issei started. "Honey, I know this might be hard for you, but listen. This particular school only takes in students they believe can handle their education, so they're very selective," Issei explained. "That is correct, son. The academy also maintains a balanced ratio of male and female students," Kuoh added. Issei felt a mix of confusion and dread as he processed the news from his parents. They had decided to transfer him to ILUNA Academy, a choice he could hardly comprehend. He wondered if this was some sort of punishment for his behavior, particularly for sneaking glances at the girls during their kendo lessons. To him, every girl was like a work of art, and he and his friends appreciated their beauty. Yet, as he reflected on his actions, he realized that perhaps karma was catching up to him. Despite the warnings and a few detentions from the student council, the real turning point came when Sona Satori, the student council president, informed his parents about his antics. Issei had dreams of building a harem and living a life surrounded by girls, but it seemed fate had other plans for him. In that moment, it felt as if the world was conspiring against him, forcing him to remain inexperienced in matters of the heart. He wanted to voice his concerns about the transfer, but he could see the determination in his parents' eyes. They were resolute in their decision, and he knew better than to challenge their authority. With a heavy sigh, he resigned himself to the situation. "I understand," he said, his voice tinged with sadness. Miki, his mother, replied gently, "Honey, I know it's hard for you to accept, but we believe it's for the best." Goro, his father, added with a light-hearted tone, "Plus, this could be a good opportunity for you to make new friends." While his parents seemed cheerful about the transfer, Issei felt the weight of disappointment. He knew he had to focus on the positives and push through the setback, even if it bruised his pride. He steeled himself for the challenges ahead, determined to move forward. As he walked to school, tears threatened to spill from his eyes as he thought about the girls he admired. Meanwhile, in the student council classroom, two figures were engrossed in a chess match. Rias Gremory, with her long crimson hair and striking blue eyes, was known as one of the most beautiful girls at Kuoh Academy. She was the president of the Occult Research Club. Opposite her sat Sona Satori, a girl with black hair and purple eyes, who wore glasses and was the head of the student council. Though not as striking as Rias, Sona had her own charm and elegance. The two girls were locked in a stalemate, each showcasing their strategic prowess. As they played, Sona decided to bring up a topic that had been on her mind. "Hey Rias, there's something I wanted to ask you," Sona said, her focus still on the board. Rias looked up, curious. "What is it?" "You know the boy you've been interested in? Issei Hyoudou, right?" Sona inquired. "Yes, I do. He seems to have potential, but it's hard to bring it out," Rias replied. Sona adjusted her glasses, preparing to share some surprising news. As much as I hate to say it, he came to the student council with quite a surprise. Rias raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of surprise?" Sona took a breath before continuing. "To be specific, today is Issei Hyoudou's last day at this academy." Rias's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean by that?" "He's transferring," Sona clarified. Rias was taken aback. Given Issei's recent troubles, she had expected some consequences, but she hadn't anticipated this. She had hoped to reach out to him and perhaps recruit him for her club, but now it seemed that opportunity was slipping away. "You're serious?" Rias asked, still processing the news. "I'm afraid so," Sona confirmed. "To what school is he transferring?" Rias pressed. "ILUNA Academy," Sona replied. Rias narrowed her eyes, recalling what she knew about that institution. ILUNA Academy had a reputation for standard education, but it was also closely monitored. The three factions typically avoided it due to a powerful entity that resided there. If Issei was now going to be under her watchful eye, there was little she could do to intervene. Sona, well versed in the details of ILUNA Academy, understood the implications of Issei's transfer. She felt a mix of regret and concern, realizing that her decision to inform his parents might have inadvertently closed a door for Rias. ILUNA Academy accepts students based on their own recommendations. Being selected to join the academy or transferred there indicates potential or a connection to the supernatural that is kept hidden from humans. Rias expressed her feelings, saying there wasn't much they could do. Sona, noticing Rias's demeanor, commented that it must be upsetting for her. Rias clarified that she wasn't upset, just disappointed, as they couldn't do anything if she was involved. Sona agreed, stating that whatever happens to Issei is now up to him. The two narrowed their eyes, aware of the individual they were discussing. They refrained from mentioning her name, as she was one of the most dangerous beings they could encounter. The mere mention of her name sent chills down the spines of any devil, an instinctive fear urging them to stay away from her. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei hugging Chibi Matsuda and Chibi Motohama as all three are crying. 2 days had passed since Issei left Kuoh Academy, and he was currently waiting at Kuoh Station for his train to arrive. He glanced at his phone, realizing that the journey to the city he was traveling to would be quite long. His parents had shared details about the academy where he would receive his education, located in a city called Solei, further south in Japan. Solei was a coastal city known for its popularity and ancient historical monuments. Although history wasn't his strong suit, he felt it was important to learn about these things, trusting his instincts. As he read more, he discovered that many historical sites were preserved to this day. One such site was the Sakura Shrine, well maintained by a shrine maiden. The shrine was famous for its mythological literature and monuments, including scriptures that dated back centuries. Tourists from around the world visited the shrine, cherishing it as a site said to bring wonderful fortunes. Upon reading about the fortunes, Issei realized it could bring good luck. If he visited the shrine at least once, he might even receive a charm to help him become the harem king. The thought made his face flush, and he felt like he was daydreaming. He quickly shook off the feeling, unsure if ILUNA Academy would have attractive girls, but he knew he needed to achieve his goals somehow. He bookmarked the page about the Sakura Shrine, reminding himself to visit it. He also noticed articles mentioning strange anomalies in recent years that weren't widely shared. However, he became distracted by a concert scheduled to take place in the city. Before he could read more, the train arrived and he saw people getting on and off. Taking it as his cue, he quickly hopped on board the express train before the doors closed. He found a seat and looked through his phone again. He took out his earphones and plugged them into his phone, preparing to listen to music from a popular idol group known as Regloss. He recalled that re meant once again, and gloss meant to add a shine, suggesting that regloss symbolized painting the world anew through new challenges. Although it sounded odd, he remembered hearing about the group on the news when his friends were excited about them. He couldn't deny their music was enjoyable, but he preferred to listen to it occasionally rather than constantly. Feeling understandably nervous, Issei reflected on why he was traveling alone. ILUNA Academy had a dormitory system where all students stayed on campus instead of living at home. He had no idea what his dorm mates would be like. For now, he decided to listen to music and try to relax during the couple of hours the train ride would take, knowing he would arrive by sunset. He had been informed that someone would be waiting for him at the station to welcome him to the academy and help him settle in. Until then, he could only rest and keep himself entertained on his phone until he reached his destination. The train eventually arrived at Solei Station as Issei Hyoudou stepped off, making his way outside the station. When he caught a glimpse of the city, he was impressed by how it resembled many cities yet had a unique blend of Japanese and international influences. He had read that Solei was a coastal city, and it certainly lived up to that reputation. The tall buildings suggested that the city was well maintained, and he could smell the salty sea air from where he stood. He knew that the scent of the air varied across different parts of Japan, but being in a coastal city felt distinctly different from being in a town further inland. Issei was unsure how to feel in that moment, but he did his best to remain calm, feeling small amidst the bustling settlement. He clutched his luggage tightly as he took a seat on a bench at the station's entrance, observing the crowd. He noticed a mix of wealthy-looking individuals and attractive people among the throngs of passers-by. Although he had never been one to have much money, he was relieved that the academy would cover his tuition. However, he was curious about what the dormitory system would be like, especially since it would include both boys and girls. Suddenly, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "Hello there." Issei blinked a few times and turned to see who was speaking. The voice was distinctly feminine, belonging to a girl with long white hair styled in a thick braid and light blue eyes framed by glasses. Her attire gave off a scholarly vibe, and her gentle smile made Issei's heart skip a beat, though he tried to maintain his composure. Hi there," he replied. "I apologize for startling you, but are you by chance Issei Hyoudou?" she asked. "That would be me," he confirmed. The girl's eyes lit up with excitement, and she adjusted her glasses, her smile widening. "That's good to hear. I'm Aia Amare, a second year at ILUNA Academy. I was sent here by the student council to collect you." "Collect me?" Issei asked, puzzled. "I'll explain along the way. Mind if I carry that luggage for you?" AIA offered. Issei quickly stood up and waved her off. While it would have been convenient to let her carry his luggage, it felt impolite to him. He didn't want to appear weak, especially in front of someone as elegant as AIA. No, I think I can carry my own luggage, he insisted. All right then, please do follow me, she said, leading the way. Issei followed closely behind, admiring the city as they walked. He felt small in comparison to the towering buildings and slightly out of place among the affluent crowd. He couldn't help but glance at A, appreciating her slim figure. Perhaps he had been wrong about there being no attractive girls at ILUNA Academy after all, but he decided to keep his thoughts to himself for now. Wanting to make small talk and gather some information, Issei asked, "So AIA, you're a second year, right?" "That is correct," she replied. "Is there anything I need to know about ILUNA Academy? I came from Kuoh, so I'm not very familiar with it." "Well, Issei, to start off, the education here is quite good. It provides a solid foundation and offers advanced classes if you grasp the basics. You could say it's on par with other schools worldwide. There's something else I should mention. The academy has a dormitory system, but it's unfortunately quite flawed." "How so?" Issei inquired. "For starters, the academy usually admits students based on recommendations, and even then, there's simply not enough space." "Wait, is there enough space for me?" he asked, concerned. "Oh, no," AIA admitted. Issei felt bewildered, confused as to why a school would have a dormitory system and fail to accommodate its students. They continued, "But don't worry. While you may not be living in the dormitories, you'll be living with us. We're a group of 6 currently, consisting of 2 first years, 2 second years, and 2 third years. With you joining us, that makes 7 and 3 second years instead. I'm sure you'll fit right in." AIA stopped and turned to look at Issei, who was still processing the information. It seemed he would be living in the same house as her and 5 others. So, he would have roommates? "So I'm going to be living with you guys until I graduate?" he asked. AIA shrugged and replied honestly, "Well, technically yes. However, the group and I have decided that we want to stick together even after graduation. You can stay as long as you'd like, even after finishing your courses at the academy. Do with that as you will, but there are things you'll need to figure out on your own, you know?" "What's that supposed to mean?" Issei questioned. "You'll have to find out in your own time, Issei. Come on, I need to get you settled in so you can begin your classes starting tomorrow." They resumed walking, and Issei followed closely beside her, remembering her earlier mention of the student council. "You said the student council wanted you to collect me. So who are they really?" he asked. "They're simply the ones who help keep the school running smoothly. They handle events and take care of the other students, so one of them might approach you sometime tomorrow to help you get settled into your education regimen." Issei thought to himself, the way she speaks is so peculiar. She's referring to a timetable-based thing as a regiment? AIA reassured him, "But don't worry, they're totally all right as long as you behave yourself, obviously." She chuckled awkwardly, hinting at her own past mischief during her time at the academy. Issei picked up on her unease and felt curious. "Did you get in trouble with them before?" he asked. They looked away slightly, feeling awkward. "Oh, you could say I'm a little rebellious at times." "Rebellious? What do you even do that makes you remotely rebellious? You look like someone who seems sophisticated." "While I appreciate the compliment, I would appreciate it if you don't get on my bad side, got it?" "Yeah, sure." The conversation ended awkwardly, leaving Issei unsure of how to continue. He felt happy to have talked to a girl, a significant step compared to his experiences back in Kuoh, where no girl wanted to talk to him. Yet, AIA seemed a little strange, and he tried to wrap his head around her personality. He remembered his parents' advice to avoid being too forward, wanting him to have a better life than he had at Kuoh Academy. While he accepted their advice, he didn't want to give up on his dreams. The rest of the walk was silent until they arrived at their home. To Issei's surprise, the house looked entirely different from the living areas in the city. It felt strange yet luxurious, a place where students like him could live. He thought it was decent enough in size. "Well, this is it. I can tell from your facial expression that it seems out of place. I don't blame you." However, the student council managed to get this for us as long as we don't cause any problems, alright. Ia explained. Oh, yeah sure. Issei replied, confused about why he felt speechless. Ia walked to the front door, and he quickly followed her inside. She wore a cheerful smile as she called out to the others. Hey everyone. I'm back with the new guy. Turning to Issei, she added, you can sit and wait in the living room for now. I'm going to quickly get the others, okay? Issei nodded and sat on the couch in the living room, plopping his luggage down on the floor. He sighed, imagining what his roommates would be like. Based on AIA, he guessed some of them might be elegant or good-looking, but he couldn't be sure. Are you the new guy? Someone asked as he turned his head to see a boy with blue hair, a black and purple-pink strand, and unique yellow and blue eyes. He wore an academic outfit with a hoodie under a white blazer. That would be me. Issei replied, chuckling a little and rubbing the back of his neck as he tried to smile politely. The boy took a seat on the couch and pulled out his phone. I'm Kuoh Kaneko, first year. Ia told us to come to the living room, and I think the others will be taking their time. I heard you're from Kuoh, is that right? Yeah man. I bet there aren't many Kuoh students here, are there? Nah, if you think that's weird, most of us aren't from Japan. ILUNA Academy takes in all sorts of people to learn possibly the best education. Some people can be quite difficult to deal with. My first month hasn't been too bad, but there are some who enjoy causing trouble. My advice to you is that you can fit in, but that doesn't mean you'll be safe all the time. Kuoh's tone was bitter yet truthful, revealing that he hadn't fully settled in during his first year at the academy. Issei listened, realizing that this academy was quite similar to Kuoh Academy back home. Well, I got transferred from Kuoh Academy, which was originally an all-girls school that recently became co-ed. Seriously? So there weren't many boys there, huh? Not really. Though I couldn't get to know any of the girls there. Hold on a moment, you went to that academy to try and meet girls, didn't you? Issei sighed in defeat, knowing he was being judged. He was trying his best to avoid being overly forward for his family's sake, which had been a major reason for his transfer. Look, man, I'm not judging you or anything, but you're quite the risk-taker, aren't you? Oh come on, you know as well as I do that it would be a dream come true to at least have a romantic relationship or a group of friends. I'm not that kind of guy, but hey, as long as you can keep those tendencies in check, you could actually fit into this academy much better than your previous one. I'm just trying to be helpful here. Yeah, that got me kicked out of that academy at the beginning of this year. Yikes. Hey Kuoh. I heard that the new boy is here, but I was wondering if you could. A girl entered the living room, stopping in her tracks as she looked at both Kuoh and Issei. When Issei got a good look at her, he found her really cute, with an innocent expression. She had pink hair tied up and one light purple eye, while an eye patch covered her left eye. She carried a strange-looking bunny plushie in her arms, appearing relaxed. Issei thought, holy crap. She's really cute. Too late, Mari, he's right here, Kuoh said. Maria? Issei asked. The girl turned to him, her warm smile reflecting her excitement to meet someone new who would be living in the same home for the next couple of years. That's my nickname, I prefer to go by that with my friends. I'm Maria Marionette, first year. It's nice to meet you, Maria said with a warm smile. Issei replied, yeah, it's nice to meet you too. I'm Issei Hyoudou. He couldn't help but feel drawn to her. This academy was filled with elegant girls, and now there was someone as adorable as Maria. It was starting to feel like a dream come true. Kuoh, noticing Issei's excitement, elbowed him gently in the shoulder, snapping him out of his stupor. Oh, what was that for? Issei exclaimed. You need to relax, Issei, Kuoh said, rolling his eyes. Maria looked concerned. I do apologize, but are you okay, Issei? Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Issei stammered. Well, that's good to hear. You can call me Mari from today onwards, as we'll be roommates and friends starting today, alright, she said, her one eye closing in a genuine smile. Issei felt his cheeks flush at her innocent nature, realizing that she was too pure for him to entertain any strange thoughts. Just then, they heard a yawn as someone entered the living room, rubbing his eyes. Alright, I'm here, where's the new roommate? the newcomer asked, looking directly at Issei. Realizing he must have appeared rude, Issei quickly corrected his posture. The boy had an interesting mix of blue and yellow long hair, and his heterochromia made his right eye blue and his left eye yellow. His outfit, a blend of white and blue, gave him a somewhat feminine appearance. Issei thought to himself, why does he look sort of like a girl? I am so confused. Hey there, I'm Aster Arcadia. You must be Issei Hyoudou, right? Aster introduced himself. That's right. Issei replied. Don't mind Aster, he is, I guess. A bit gay, Kuoh said casually. Hey, I'm bisexual. That's totally different from being gay. Aster shot back. Not to me, Kuoh shrugged, and Aster looked slightly offended. Maria stepped in to de-escalate the situation. Wait a minute, guys. We don't need to be fighting in front of our new friend, okay? She said. Kuoh sighed, looking at Issei for a moment before leaning back against the couch. Very well, Mari. Yeah. Sorry about that, Aster said, trying to smooth things over. It's fine, guys. I'm used to this kind of thing. Issei chuckled awkwardly, trying to play it off as normal. It reminded him of the arguments he often had with Matsuda and Motohama, especially when they debated over their favorite characters. He wondered why so many people lived under the same roof when they could have separate homes. Suddenly, he felt a pair of arms wrap around him from behind, and something pressed against the back of his head. Hey there, new boy. You must be Issei, right? A girl said playfully. Issei's heart raced at the sound of her voice. This was probably the first time someone had flirted with him, and he felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He had often been rejected when he tried to approach girls before, but he had a habit of peeking at the kendo girls, which often ended with him getting hit by their wooden swords. Kuoh, do you really have to let Scarl give our new roommate a heart attack? Kuoh said, shaking his head. The girl, now revealed to be Scarl, giggled and walked around to face Issei. With long black wavy hair, tan skin, and striking red eyes, she was captivating. Don't take it personally, I was only practicing for when I actually find the right one. So, how did I do, new boy? She asked, winking at him with a warm smile. Issei thought, holy crap. Black wavy hair, smooth tan skin, red eyes like rubies. She's stunning. You did good, he managed to say. Good? I was expecting great, really. Scarl said, her brow furrowing in thought as she tried to figure out where she went wrong. Scarl, you shouldn't expect the first time to always work out, Maria advised. I think you did a fantastic job. Aster chimed in. Thanks, Aster, Scarl replied, her mood brightening. Don't mind Scarl, just don't let her do the cooking, okay? Kuoh said, earning a glare from her. Hey, you can't cook well either. Scarl shot back. Well, that's why I never try. Also, don't forget that some of your cooking is quite questionable when you volunteer, forcing someone else to cook. Kuoh retorted. What the hell, Kuoh? Scarl exclaimed. Please don't fight now. Maria interjected. Is this about the cooking again? I find all of your dishes delicious, you know? A new voice chimed in. The next person to enter the room was taller than the others, with black hair and a set of peculiar horns protruding from his head. He had blue eyes and pointy ears, and Issei couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about him. He looked human, but not entirely. Issei thought, are those horns even natural? Or is it cosplay? Is it rude if I ask that? Hey Ren, I know you find some of the food delicious, but we can't stand her cooking, you know? Aster said, and Ren laughed lightly. Issei couldn't help but think that Ren's laughter reminded him of someone who might be a bit too confident. However, while Kiba usually had a more polite personality, Ren seemed to have a calm and strange vibe that still gave off an energy that made Issei despise him internally. Issei thought to himself, wondering why he had a strange feeling that Ren would make things difficult for him in achieving his dreams. Ren spoke up, encouraging honesty but also pointing out that it was rude to be blunt. Scarl thanked Ren for his input, while Kuoh chimed in, suggesting that if they sugar-coated anything, it would remain unpleasant. Ren acknowledged Kyo's logic but reminded him to consider everyone else present. Kuoh rolled his eyes and crossed his arms, retorting that Ren should think about his own focus when girls chased him around. Rin chuckled, scratching his cheek, claiming he hadn't done anything wrong. Just then, Issei entered the room with a calm smile and announced that everyone was present, prompting Issei to introduce himself properly. Issei hesitated, realizing that his dreams of becoming the harem king might not be well received by everyone. Kuoh seemed indifferent but warned him not to do anything foolish, so Issei knew he needed to be friendly. He introduced himself, mentioning he was from Kuoh and had been studying at Kuoh Academy. Maria interrupted, asking if that wasn't an all-girls school. Kuoh clarified that it had recently become co-ed, and Issei continued, explaining that he had gotten into trouble and was transferred to ILUNA Academy as a second year. Rin inquired about the trouble Issei had caused, but Issei hesitated, unsure if he should reveal that he was part of a notorious trio known for their antics. Aa noticed his discomfort and intervened, suggesting that what had happened before didn't matter now that he was living with them. Rin agreed, and Issei felt relieved that A had saved him from revealing too much. Aa then asked if everyone had introduced themselves, and Issei pointed out that Ren and Scarl had not. Rin apologized and introduced himself as Rinzato, a third year, while Scarl introduced herself as Scarl Yanaguni, also a third year. A welcomed Issei to the academy and their group, extending her hand for a handshake. Although Issei felt a bit awkward, he shook her hand, marking the beginning of his new journey. The next morning, Issei was sleeping peacefully in his new room until an alarm clock blared its usual tone. He quickly switched it off, feeling drained from the previous day of adjusting to living with 6 new people. He knew 3 of them were girls he could tolerate at. Amari, a second year like him, seemed sophisticated and elegant, but he had been warned not to get on her bad side. Kuoh Kaneko appeared to be a good guy, but Issei sensed that he didn't care much about Issei's aspirations. Maria Marionette was cute and kind, and Issei appreciated her friendliness after his experiences at Kuoh Academy, though he found it a bit unfamiliar. Aster Arcadia seemed alright, and Issei didn't mind having him around. Scarl Yanaguni was stunning, one of the prettiest girls he had ever seen, but he couldn't help but compare her to a crimson-haired girl from his past school, whose name he couldn't recall. Lastly, there was Renzato, who exuded a strange energy and seemed to attract girls effortlessly, which frustrated Issei. He felt that having a chick magnet around would only make it harder for him to achieve his dreams. After spending most of the previous day alone to settle in, Issei realized he had skipped dinner and was now feeling hungry. His stomach growled as he lay on his back, staring at the ceiling. What had Issei gotten himself into? He sat up, lost in thought, when he heard a knock on his door. "Come in," he called out. Maria opened the door, her cheerful demeanor brightening the room. "Hey Issei. Glad to see you up and early this morning. The rest are busy getting ready to head to the dining room for breakfast. Would you like to join us since you're our new friend?" Issei found it strange to have a girl be so nice to him. He felt a blush creeping up his cheeks at her kindness but shook it off and nodded. "Sure thing. I'll be down in a sec, okay?" "Alright, see ya then," Maria replied, closing the door behind her. Left alone, Issei sighed as he got up. "Issei, you're going to start attending a new school where no one knows you. First impressions are important. I could be my usual self, but judging by how that went last time, it didn't end well. Oh well, I'll just wing it. What else could go wrong?" He shrugged, tidied himself up, and headed to the dining room. Upon entering, he realized he was the last one to arrive. Maria, Scarl, and Aster were already seated at the table and looked up as he walked in. "Oh, there's our new boy," Scarl said. "Mari informed us that you were awake. How are you feeling at the moment?" I asked. Issei took a seat next to Aster. "Oh, I'm doing okay for the most part. New environment, you know what I mean." Aster nodded. "We completely understand. You're new around here, and we wouldn't want you to feel uncomfortable." "That's right," Maria added. "We'll show you the directions to get to school, and you'll stick with us on the way there and back. Though we sometimes split off because we have our own things to do. Some of us stay overtime at school, mostly AIA. I looked a bit embarrassed. "For research purposes, of course." Issei's curiosity was piqued, but before he could respond, Kuoh and Rin entered, balancing plates of food. Kuoh carried 2 plates, while Rin managed to juggle 5. 2 in his hands, 2 on his arms, and 1 precariously balanced on his head. Sorry for the wait, everyone. I had to improvise because of Ren's antics, Kuoh said, trying to keep his composure. Oh come on, Kuoh, we got the food done, didn't we? Ren replied. Yeah, after you messed up twice in a row, Kuoh shot back, his eye twitching slightly. Once they placed the plates down, Ren took his seat first, and Kuoh set down the last plate, which was for himself. This morning we'll be having French toast with eggs and sausages, Kuoh announced. That's what this is? Issei asked, surprised. I would assume you've never heard of this dish before? You could consider it well known overseas, AIA explained. Why can't we have what he had last time? Scarl pouted. Kuoh rolled his eyes. Nah, I ain't going through that again, Scarl. Last time we had simple toast with beans. That's meant for the British, and I'm not going to like it. You got a problem with that, Kuoh? Ren challenged. Why yes I do. I literally can't stand it. I understand there was a time when their only food was whatever they could put on their sandwiches. Kuoh exclaimed. Well, we all have a right to our opinions when it comes to food, don't we? Some people like British food, IA said diplomatically. I don't mind whatever I eat, Aster added. That's a lie, Aster. You literally told our new friend yesterday that you had a problem when I cook. Scarl retorted. That's because you're just a bad cook, Kuoh replied, causing Scarl to look a bit down. Maria intervened with a smile. We don't have to dwell on that now, do we? We all sometimes say things we probably didn't mean to. I can agree, Mari. Now let's dig in before our food gets cold, Ren said. Issei remained quiet throughout the conversation, surprised at how this group acted like a family at the dining table. As he ate, he found himself enjoying the food. While it didn't immediately become one of his favorites, it was unique, and he had never tried anything from outside Japan before. He took his time, savoring every bite until he was finished. Afterward, he quickly headed to his room to prepare for his new academy life. Once dressed, he glanced in the mirror and noticed his uniform was similar to his Kuoh Academy uniform but somewhat inverted. He kept the sneakers and red shirt combo, while his black and white academy blazer was mostly white with black accessories, and his pants were black as well. It felt familiar, reminiscent of his old school. Suddenly he heard AA shouting from downstairs. Issei, we're about to leave now. You ready? Panic set in as he hurriedly tidied himself up. He dashed downstairs, arriving just in time to see IA about to close the front door. Sorry about that, he said, catching his breath. No worries at all, Issei. It's your first day, and we weren't leaving without you, IA reassured him. We need to show you around and stuff, Kuoh added. Yeah. Thanks, Issei replied. With that, the group of 7 made their way across the city streets of Solii. Issei focused on absorbing everything they shared about the city. They discussed fun events planned for the weekends, and he felt included in their plans. They showed him some of their favorite places and gave directions to the Sakura Shrine, which made Issei happy. He had bookmarked that place on his phone and looked forward to exploring it one day. Yet they also showed him where the Solii Mall was, which was primarily where the central shopping for the best quality products took place, including some early sale items. They even tried asking him questions about his personal life at times, which made him a bit uncomfortable as he didn't want to explain his peculiar interests. While he was glad that he hadn't decorated his room the previous night since Maria checked up on him that morning, he managed to steer the conversation elsewhere to avoid revealing his plans of becoming the harem king in the future. Soon enough, they arrived at the main academy campus, and Issei realized that this place was definitely one of those expensive academies to maintain. The marble brick infrastructure was strangely shiny at times, well kept and clean for the most part. The students wandering around were mostly heading inside. Issei noticed that the students were primarily wearing colors related to either white or black, indicating that the school didn't mind what you wore as long as you adhered to the color scheme of your uniform. This uniform scheme was something he wasn't used to, as this was certainly not an ordinary Japanese school. Before he could ponder further, A spoke to him, having noticed that he had missed an entire conversation while the group was leaving for their classes. A informed him, "We'll be heading to class now. You can go look for the student council room, okay?" Issei replied, Okay sure, but where is it exactly? The moment he asked this, A was already gone with the group, making his face turn pale. Issei exclaimed, "Oh come on. I don't even know where it is." His words fell on deaf ears as he sighed, feeling a little upset that he couldn't figure out how to find the student council room. He spent a few minutes searching for it as classes had already started, much to his dismay. Yet here he was, still searching for the room in the vast campus, which was either on par with Kuoh Academy or slightly larger. With his head hung low, he eventually gave up and sat on a bench, unsure of where to go next. He sighed and yelled out in frustration, "Oh come on. How hard is it to even find one room? This academy is too large for me. Why couldn't that nerdy-looking girl tell me where it is? I give up." He rested his head back on the bench, only to find himself staring into the face of someone else. A girl stood behind the bench, looking down at him with a cheerful smile. She had a unique attire that gave off a gyro vibe, with long hair split into two halves, one side pink and the other a natural blonde. Her blue eyes captivated him the more he looked at them. "Hey there," she greeted. Issei immediately panicked and got up from the bench, backing away slightly. "Where did you come from?" he exclaimed. The girl laughed a little, feeling a bit bad for seemingly sneaking up on him when he was feeling down. She waved one hand and explained, "No worries, I didn't sneak up on you or anything. I just noticed you weren't in class. Now that I look at you, I don't recognize you at all. Are you new?" "Oh, yeah. I'm Issei Hyoudou," he replied. Suddenly, she clicked her fingers as if she just remembered something. "Oh, you must be the new kid that came to the academy recently. Issei Hyoudou from Kuoh, right?" she said. "Yeah, that's me." "Wait, are you part of the student council?" he asked. The girl walked up to him, analyzing his features with a smirk and nodding her head. "That's right. I'm Kuoh Academy. A pleasure to make your acquaintance, Issei," she said. She radiated such a positive vibe that he couldn't help but notice how close she was. Once he calmed down, he got a better look at her. Issei thought to himself, "She's a total gyro all right. She's really pretty. So this academy does have some good-looking girls after all." Suddenly, a flash from Kuoh's phone blinded him for a moment. He quickly blinked, confused about why she took a picture. "Sorry about that. I figured I would take a photo. For personal reasons, of course," she explained. "Honestly, you taking a photo of me without my permission is a bit creepy," he said. "Don't look at it like that. I did it for a reason, but I won't get into that. I'm a third year and a member of the student council. Now come on, I need to take you to our president," she said, pulling Issei by the wrist. He didn't resist or react at all, surprised by this unexpected turn of events. Usually, when a girl wanted something to do with him, it involved harsh or aggressive intentions. However, Kuoh's grip was gentle, with no intention of harm. For once, he felt relieved that a girl was willing to drag him along like any ordinary person instead of treating him like an enemy. A short time later, they reached the exact room Issei had been searching for. Kuoh opened the door and called out, "Hey, President. I brought the new student." Issei took a look inside the student council room, noticing it was fairly small, resembling a head office. The person sitting behind the desk was busy writing notes but stopped to look up at the two who entered. "Oh, glad to see you brought him along, Kuoh," the young individual said, smiling. He had short, dark, asymmetrical hair with hot pink highlights and dusty pink eyes. Kuoh introduced him. "Indeed I have, President. Issei, this is Vermilion, President of the Student Council body here at ILUNA Academy." Issei took a better look at Ver, sensing a humble demeanor from his expression. Ver got up from his seat and walked over to Issei, who appeared to be deep in thought. "Issei Hyoudou, you came all this way from Kuoh, am I right?" Ver asked. "Yeah," Issei replied, his voice barely above a whisper. "It must have been quite a distance to get here, I assume. Though I can tell you're nervous about something, am I right?" Ver continued. Issei was speechless, unsure of how to respond. In that moment, Ver pulled out a file and began skimming through it, resting a finger on his chin. "Let's see. Issei Hyoudou. Previously attended Kuoh Academy. which was originally an all-girls school. You were caught in a couple of schemes, though it doesn't specify what exactly. Yet you somehow managed to obtain good grades. Your grades are actually quite impressive despite being transferred here, my friend. Whatever schemes you were involved in back at Kuoh, I advise you to keep that to yourself and not repeat them. Am I clear on this? Ver stated. Why yes. Issei responded in a panic, causing Ver to chuckle lightly. He set the file down and walked over to pat Issei on the shoulder. Relax, Issei. I'm not reprimanding you. Hey Kotoka, can you hand him his syllabus along with his curriculum? He needs to attend class and feel comfortable. Got it? Ver instructed. Of course, Prez. Come on, Issei, I still need to show you around before getting you to class, Kotoka said cheerfully. Sure thing. Issei replied, quickly following Kotoka out of the room. Ver was left alone, his smile fading to a neutral expression as he glanced at the file again, lost in thought. Later that night, Ver walked into what appeared to be the main office within the academy. Upon opening the door, he saw everyone he wanted to see, along with Kotoka. This group referred to themselves as a team that worked together to keep things in check. While they were technically the student council, they also had a secret. They accepted assignments from various providers to complete certain tasks, specializing in taking down powerful threats that could harm Solii. Glad to see everyone's here, Ver said with a smile. The next person to speak scoffed, arms crossed and legs resting on a table. He had short hair with black streaks in his primarily magenta-colored hair, a white streak at the front, and a short side ponytail on the left. His eyes were bicolored, yellow on the bottom half and lime green on the top half. Ver recognized him as Doppio Dropscythe, a first-year student known for being a troublemaker. Glad to see you back too, President, Doppio replied. The next speaker had long black hair with blunt bangs, two-toned purple braids, and violet eyes. She wore an elegant smile and had a good figure. Ver knew her as Maloko Kyorin, a second-year student who, despite her appearance, was actually quite shy. Well, I had to sort out some paperwork and assignments, Ver explained. That isn't entirely true, is it? Came a voice with a deep tone. This speaker had short, partially slicked-back light blue hair with a black streak, light green eyes, and glasses. Ver recognized him as Hex Haywire, a second-year student who could easily read people's darker sides. Oh come on Hex, what makes you think that? We heard from Kotoka that the new transfer student arrived. Issei Hyoudou, correct? Hex inquired. Well, yes, but he hasn't shown anything unusual so far, Ver replied. You should learn not to give too many people chances, Prez, said the last member of the student council, who spoke in a flat tone while focused on her laptop. She had short, silvery hair styled in bow-shaped buns, multiple hair clips, and light purple eyes. Ver knew her as Zayn Lanza, a first-year student and the most serious of the group. Come on, Zayn. We were just trying to treat the new student with proper care, just like any other student, Kotoka chimed in. Yet, what you both fail to realize is his background, Zayn responded, lifting her head to address everyone. The supposed schemes that Issei Hyoudou was involved in were due to accounts of inappropriate behavior, possibly even more serious acts for all we know, she explained. So we're dealing with a troublemaker? Terrific. Doppio said sarcastically, clearly disapproving of such individuals. Ver chuckled slightly and offered his perspective. Listen, I understand your concerns. We may have brought in someone with a questionable past, but he seems like a genuinely good guy. Maybe his past actions are more of a cover-up? Ver suggested. Yet we don't know everything, especially since she made us bring him in, Hex pointed out. Look, our task is important. You all are aware of the conflict between the red and white dragons, right? Ver reminded them. Oh yeah. She did mention that Issei could possibly be one of them, Kotoka stated, genuinely curious about the situation. Zayn continued, we need to keep an eye on him and determine the extent of his powers. We aren't fully aware of what he is or what he can do. However, if he is one of the legendary dragon emperors, she wants us to ensure he is in good hands until the time is right. We can't exactly disobey her, you know? We'll go along with it, keep an eye on him, and figure it out. We brought him in, so he's our responsibility, Ver concluded. Forget that, Doppio said, standing up from his seat. I'm not getting involved with this. Wait, Doppi-chan. Kotoka called after him. You all can do what you want, but leave me out of it. As soon as Doppio left the room, Ver sighed and looked at Zayn. Ver asked, Zayn, just try to make sure Doppio doesn't cause us any trouble with this task, alright? Zayn replied, fine. Ver could tell that even Zayn was against the idea. However, since the rest of them agreed to the task and decided to wait and see what Issei would do, they could keep their distance and interact with him like any other student until more information presented itself. All Ver could hope for was that this assignment would go smoothly, unlike some of the assignments that had gone wrong in the past. About a week had passed since Issei arrived in Solii City, and he had gotten used to the routine at ILUNA Academy. In the mornings he would get ready and have breakfast with his roommates, enjoying the different meals each time and listening to their banter and bickering as if they were family. During their walks, he mostly listened rather than talked, but when they asked for his input, he would respond and share his opinions. In class, Issei realized that ILUNA Academy was quite similar to Kuoh Academy, except it had a more balanced mix of male and female students. He struggled to keep up with the curriculum, but AIA, who was in the same class, helped him out from time to time. During lunch breaks, he usually hung out with Kuoh, who was also new to the academy, making it easier for both of them to adjust to their new environment. On some days, Kotoka from the student council would check on him to see if he was settling in and if he needed help. Issei couldn't understand why Kotoka seemed to be keeping an eye on him, as if he had done something wrong. Overall, his experience wasn't bad. He had managed to keep his perverted nature under control, aside from the occasional sneak peeks at attractive girls. Every time he saw Ren, he noticed that girls from the first, second, and third years would flock around him, and Ren would try to play it off. Issei knew that Ren had a reputation, but he also seemed to have an anti-reputation, which confused Issei. He promised himself not to get jealous, although he sometimes failed miserably. It was now Saturday and Issei was in his room, looking through his phone. He hadn't bothered to put up any posters or decorations. He was starting a new life and journey, wanting to keep his true nature hidden. Most of the posters he had brought with him were of a more risque nature, featuring mostly naked or semi-naked women. He knew that if he hung them on his walls and a roommate walked in, he would be in serious trouble. So, he packed the posters in the closet, hiding them among some boxes to make it look random. As the first week of his new experience came to an end, he wondered what would happen next. He had overheard conversations about the weekend plans, but since they were always bouncing ideas back and forth, he couldn't pinpoint anything specific. He had received calls from his friends Matsuda and Motohama, who missed him and felt a bit jealous of his new experiences. Issei found it amusing yet somewhat upsetting, as he wasn't trying to do anything out of the ordinary, he just lacked the confidence to pull off any antics. His thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. "Come in," he called out. They entered with a calm smile on her face. "Issei, do you mind if I ask you to do something today?" she asked. Issei replied, I don't mind at all." They continued, "I would like it if you went shopping with Mari today." Issei blinked a few times as the idea sank in. Going shopping? With a girl? It sounded like a dream come true, but he quickly dismissed the thought. From what he had seen, Maria seemed somewhat innocent, and he didn't want to create any awkward situations that could lead to trouble. "Sure. I can definitely do that," he said. "Alrighty then. Oh, and as a reminder, we're going bowling tomorrow if you're up for that. We were thinking it would be nice for us all to bond over an activity," Ia added. Issei knew she was right. Shared activities could help people become friends. He remembered his time as part of the perverted trio at Kuoh Academy and felt proud of that part of his past, but he knew he needed to leave it behind for now, even if it was a bit disheartening. "Sure thing. When is Mari heading out?" he asked. Ia replied, "Give her a few minutes. Besides, I think you might need a few minutes as well. The rest of us are doing our own things today. So, see ya." She closed the door quickly, leaving Issei to sigh and rub the back of his neck as he lay down on his bed. He stared at the ceiling, letting his thoughts flow. He wouldn't mind hanging out with his roommates, he needed to get used to it. However, what really bothered him was the fact that he couldn't truly be himself in this new environment. With Matsuda and Motohama, he could express his opinions and passions freely. Now, surrounded by 6 others in a new school, he felt constrained. Over the course of the week, Issei had started to grow hesitant about his actions, unsure of how strict the academy was. He was glad that everyone could at least see his good side, but a part of him wanted to resurface, and he was forcing himself to hold back. Issei sighed, feeling frustrated with himself. It was currently the middle of the day as Issei waited in front of the Solei shopping mall. Maria had told him he could go ahead since she wanted to make a list of what they needed for the coming week. He didn't know what kind of list she might make, but since he had the chance to hang out with one of his roommates, he didn't want to mess it up. He knew he needed to get used to his roommates, and the one he was hanging out with now was a friendly girl, which made him blush lightly at the thought of her smile. He quickly shook it off, trying to clear his mind, and rubbed the back of his neck. Issei thought to himself that he needed to get himself under control. "Hey Issei," he heard a familiar voice call out. He turned around to see Maria running up to him, looking quite happy. The sunlight made her eyes glisten beautifully. He had to admit she looked particularly adorable today, but he didn't want to dwell on it. "Sorry for making you wait," Maria said. "You don't have to apologize, Mari. Did you get the list you needed?" Issei replied. "Yeah, I did. So to start off, we'll need," she said, pulling out a list. Issei peeked at it and noticed it was quite long, making him twitch his eye a little, but he remained calm. "Hey, Mari, why is the list so long?" he asked. "I was mainly asking if everyone needed something alongside the basic necessities for next week." AA wanted a new book for her study notes. Aster wanted some new products for his care. Kuoh needed a new controller since he accidentally broke one. Ren wanted some new merchandise. Clothing he heard was relatively new. As for Scarl, she wanted some candy corn for a new recipe she's making, corn pizza. Issei blinked a few times, trying to understand. He could see why A wanted a new book for notes, and Aster wanting beauty products made sense given his appearance. Kuoh needing a new controller was understandable, but Ren's request for merchandise made him feel a twinge of jealousy. However, Scarl's request puzzled him. "Corn pizza?" Issei asked, confused. "Oh yeah, Scarl tends to make weird but fascinating combinations. Apparently, candy corn and pizza somehow work for her. But I wouldn't judge her based on that. She's a good person, I promise," Maria assured him with a confident yet gentle smile. Issei felt compelled to smile back. Her smile was contagious, and he found himself trusting her. "All right then. I'll believe you on that one, but isn't there something you want to get?" he asked. "No, not really. I never thought about getting anything for myself," Maria replied. "Oh no. We're getting you something by the end of this. Consider it my token of friendship," Issei insisted. Maria's eyes sparkled with happiness at his words. "You really mean it?" "Yeah," he chuckled awkwardly, not used to this kind of interaction. The duo then headed inside the mall to begin their shopping spree, starting with the necessary household items. Food was, of course, the most important, and based on Maria's list, they managed to gather ingredients for dinner and food that would last a while. While Maria struggled to find Scarl's request, Issei managed to locate the candy corn they needed. Although they agreed to get it for Scarl, Issei still found it odd that she wanted such a thing for pizza. It sounded unappetizing to him, and he began to understand Kuoh's comments about Scarl's cooking. After gathering the food necessities and Scarl's request, they moved on to Kuoh's request. Issei was curious about the stores that sold games, consoles, and components for personal computers. Their trip around that section was relatively short, but they found the controller, even if it took a little while for Maria to remember what it looked like. Next, they searched for Aster's beauty products. Issei had no expertise in that area, but Maria explained the products and their functions to him. He noticed that she didn't seem too enthusiastic about the products, which intrigued him. It helped him realize that not all girls were into beauty products unless absolutely necessary. Afterward, they went to find a suitable book for AIA. Maria knew exactly what kind of book AIA would use often. Since the bookstores weren't the most exciting for Issei, he suggested they skip directly to Ren's request, as the clothing stores weren't far from the bookstores. Ren was looking for shirts from his favorite collaborations and bands, and in the end, they found a fair amount of shirts. While they had successfully accomplished what they needed to do, Issei and Maria continued walking through the mall. Issei was carrying all the bags, feeling the weight taking a toll on his shoulders, which were starting to feel sore. Maria noticed this and asked out of concern, her expression worried. "Are you sure you can carry all of that on your own?" she inquired. "No worries, Maria. Besides, we still need to get you something," Issei replied. "Oh, I honestly don't need anything, but I suppose we could stop somewhere for some lunch?" Maria suggested. "Yeah, that could actually work," Issei agreed, though he felt a bit embarrassed. He thought to himself, wait, isn't this a sort of thing that couples do? No, Issei. She's just trying to be thoughtful. Even though he agreed to stop for lunch, Issei felt a bit awkward, as he imagined this could be a date. However, he reminded himself that it was just a way to make it up to Maria and strengthen their friendship. He had promised it would be a token of his friendship with her, so he resolved to stick to his word. Eventually, they stopped in front of a fast food joint that piqued Issei's curiosity. KFP? I can't say I've heard of this place, he thought. This place is perfect. We can have our lunch right here. Come on, Maria exclaimed, dragging Issei by the wrist before he could protest. As they entered the establishment, Issei noticed a unique atmosphere that felt like a blend of a diner and a fast food restaurant. They took their seats next to each other. The decor featured a mix of white, orange, and red, with mostly white tables accented by unique orange hues. Issei was relieved to let his shoulders rest for a moment, although the atmosphere felt lively, filled with a fair number of patrons. "Hey Issei, are you curious about this place?" Maria asked. He snapped out of his thoughts and laughed a little, realizing he had been caught daydreaming. "Well, I can't say that I've heard of this establishment." "Really? KFP is an internationally successful fast food business. The owner is well known for her kind and cheerful hospitality," Maria explained. "Really?" Issei chuckled awkwardly, admitting he was unaware of that fact. "We didn't have this kind of joint in Kuoh. I guess it's only in specific areas. I've heard the owner is actually from Austria," Maria added. Their conversation paused when a young woman approached their table, setting down 2 menus. She had a cheerful smile, medium-length coral hair that faded into teal green, shiny feathery earrings, and magenta eyes. She wore a greenish bow ribbon around her neck, an orange uniform, a small white chef's hat, and a red beret adorned with a black bow and white stars. "Kikariki. It's nice to see some new faces around here. I'm Takanashi Kiera, owner of KFP," she greeted. Maria's eyes sparkled with excitement. "No way. Takanashi Kiera? I thought you were overseas." Kiera laughed lightly, waving off the surprise. "Oh, I was, but I chose to move here to Japan for the next couple of years before heading out again. May I know who you two are?" "I'm Maria Marionette, a first year at ILUNA Academy. And this is my friend and roommate, Issei." "Hey Issei, would you like to introduce yourself?" Maria prompted. Issei was momentarily captivated by Kiera's eyes and missed what Maria said. When he realized he had blanked out, he blushed and quickly tried to cover it up. "Oh, I'm sorry. What were we doing again?" Kiera giggled, finding his reaction amusing. "You are supposed to introduce me, Issei?" "Oh, right. I'm Issei Hyoudou, a second year at ILUNA Academy," he stammered. "Ah, I see now. You both are from ILUNA Academy. It's nice to meet some fresh faces here once in a while. So, what would you both like to order?" Kiera asked. Maria ordered a KFP burger, and Issei followed suit as they continued chatting while eating. After their experience at the mall, they made their way back home. Noticing the sunset, they decided to take a longer route along the beachside. Maria sighed happily, clearly enjoying the day. "Thank you for coming along today, Issei. Your help was really appreciated," she said. "Sure. Don't mention it. As soon as we can get these bags, I can finally take a good nap," Issei replied. "Are you sure you can carry all of it on your own?" Maria asked again. "It's fine, Maria. I couldn't let you carry all of these anyway. It might be too heavy." "I don't mean it in any offensive way," he reassured her. No, it's all right, Issei. You know, you're actually quite a nice person, Maria said, surprising him. Huh? Issei paused, taken aback. Maria had walked a few steps ahead before turning around with a confused expression. Are you okay, Issei? She asked. That was honestly the first time a girl has ever said that to me, he admitted. Noticing something was off in his tone, Maria wanted to make sure he was all right. Sit. Is there something you aren't telling us? Issei quickly shook his head, recovering as he picked up the pace. No. I'm all right, don't worry about it, Mari. I'm guessing we're making dinner tonight. Issei tried to change the topic, not wanting to delve into his personal issues. He knew that discussing his perverted nature would be uncomfortable, especially with Maria and the others around. Although Maria sensed his attempt to shift the conversation, she decided not to pry and walked alongside him, respecting his boundaries. Yep. Last time was Ren's turn, and he managed to cook something. Mediocre? Maria replied with a playful tone. Well, then I guess I'll have to cook better than him. Issei declared, trying to sound confident. Do you really know how to cook? Maria asked, raising an eyebrow. Not really. Issei admitted sheepishly. Well then, that's why we're cooking together tonight. We shall turn something mediocre into something spectacular for everyone back at home. Maria exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. Despite his initial hesitation, Issei couldn't help but laugh at Maria's excitement. Although they had only recently become friends, she was his first true female friend, and her positivity was refreshing compared to his past experiences. He felt a spark of excitement as he responded, "Hell yeah." The two shared large smiles, marking the beginning of Issei's new journey. He realized that perhaps his dream of becoming the harem king wasn't too far out of reach, it just required time and effort. He would take it one step at a time. The next day arrived quickly, and Issei found himself more involved in activities. After shopping with Maria, he had helped her cook dinner, and they had done a decent job together. They even made breakfast that morning, and their bond over the simple shopping trip was evident to the group. However, Issei was uncertain about going bowling. Although he had agreed the day before, he wasn't particularly competitive, except when it came to his more mischievous tendencies. He knew he had to keep those in check for now. Ironically, the bowling alley was in the same shopping mall they had visited the day before. Upon arrival, they decided to take turns, all genuinely excited to compete. Kuoh and Ren faced off first, and Issei mostly watched, noting Kuoh's intense competitiveness. Each of Kuoh's throws knocked down more pins than Ren's, while AIA scribbled down notes, leaving Issei puzzled. Why are you taking notes? Issei asked. Oh, I'm just determining who's going to win, AIA replied. She does this quite often, she acts like the tally, Scarl added. After Kuoh bested Ren, he turned to Issei, pointing at him. Issei, come down here so we can have our match. Huh. Issei blinked in surprise, but Maria encouraged him with a gentle pat on the back and a small smile. Go on, she urged. Oh right. Issei got up and approached Kuoh. Although he couldn't hear the others' conversations, he and Kuoh had a moment to talk. You been bowling before? Kuoh asked. Well, yeah actually. I've gone a few times with my friends back at Kuoh, Issei replied. The two mischievous ones? Kuoh asked with a deadpan expression, to which Issei smiled. The two mischievous ones. You really need a life, man, Kuoh said. There's nothing wrong with appreciating everything about the ladies, right? Issei countered. Obviously, but you have a bit of an obsession. How about this? We compete, and whoever loses has to reveal their most embarrassing secret to the group. You know what that means. Kuoh said with a smug look. Issei realized Kuoh was trying to get him to reveal his more embarrassing tendencies, but he remembered he needed to maintain his image. Oh, you son of a gun. I'm not losing to you. Namit. You'll have to reveal it sooner or later, but challenge accepted. Kuoh replied, both of them glaring at each other, ready for the bowling showdown. As the others watched, Aster sighed, noticing the competitive energy. It seems those two are having a competition. Really? Maria asked, intrigued. They both seem fired up. It's a bit unsettling, Scarl remarked. There's nothing wrong with a friendly competition. I'm curious to see how Issei does against Kuoh. I lost to him pretty badly, Ren added. Kuoh is by far the most competitive. He plays a lot of multiplayer games, always trying to win, Ia explained. But the new guy seems to be giving it his all as well, Scarl noted. As Scarl spoke, Issei and Kuoh remained neck and neck, their rivalry intensifying. They continued to challenge each other, much to Maria's delight, as she cheered for both of them. Come on you two. Break a leg, she encouraged. Ren chuckled, finding the situation amusing. Mari is having a good time. Now it just comes down to who can outdo the other, Ia observed. Who's more likely to win? Aster asked. Hard to say, Ia replied. The group continued to watch, and it became increasingly clear that Issei and Kuoh were evenly matched. A few minutes passed, and eventually, their bout came to an end. Both Issei and Kuoh were panting heavily, glancing up at the screens to see that they were tied, which surprised them both. What the hell? Issei exclaimed. Nah bro, this is rigged. Kuoh replied. There's no way it would end like this. Another round. Issei insisted. Oh, you're on. Kuoh shot back. The two launched into another round, making the group sweat a little. They were honestly surprised that the two were keeping up with one another. How long is this going to go on for? Aster asked. Judging by how the first one went, I think it might go on for a while, A replied. Wow! Maria exclaimed, her eyes shining with excitement as she felt the competitive spirit. Come on you two. Kick each other's butts. Who knew Kuoh would actually find his match? Scarl remarked. Ren shrugged. Not me. Though props to Issei for actually making Kuoh exert himself. The group knew this could go on for a while, prompting most of them to sigh, except for Ren, who watched with a curious expression, and Maria, who cheered the two on from the sidelines. Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei and Chibi Kuoh facing each other in bowling with fire in their eyes. About 2 hours later, Issei walked through the mall, feeling a bit down. To summarize what had occurred, both Kuoh and Issei had made a bet on who would win, but they kept tying. Eventually, they called a truce. If Issei counted how many times they tied, it would be around 10. He was honestly surprised that he managed to go on for 10 consecutive rounds and tie in all of them. To a degree, Issei felt he needed a rematch, but since they held up the rest of the group with their competition, he thought he might get him back later. However, due to their truce, they couldn't fulfill the punishment, so they had to come to a different conclusion. The best idea the group could come up with was for Issei to buy some snacks for later, as he was handed a list written by AIA. He had just finished acquiring the snacks and sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. This wasn't exactly the best situation for him. Yet he thought about it a bit more. I honestly don't like being the errand boy. But I suppose this does help me get closer to them. Kuoh and I did take up most of the time, which still esikas. But then again, why did it have to be so many snacks? He felt annoyed, wondering how they managed to handle these kinds of lists. First was the shopping from the previous day when Maria and he had to tackle a ridiculous list that was somewhat fair but absurd at the same time. Now, with the snacks list, he couldn't help but twitch his eye. The snacks he bought filled 2 entire grocery bags, and he struggled to understand why they needed so many in the first place. Not paying attention to where he was walking, he looked down, feeling a little depressed and unable to be his usual self. While he had been himself to a degree at the bowling alley, it just didn't feel the same. He missed the good old days of hanging out with his 2 friends back in Kuoh, simply enjoying their usual shenanigans. As he walked, he accidentally bumped into someone slightly shorter than him, and both of them fell to the floor. In the process, he dropped his grocery bags as he tried to get back up, failing to realize who was underneath him. Ow! A female voice said. He blinked and looked down, realizing he was on top of a girl who didn't seem much older than him. She was trying to recover from the sudden predicament, and when she opened her eyes to look into his, they both seemed mesmerized by the situation. The more Issei looked at the girl, the more he noticed her features. She had cerulean short hair, which he found quite nice. Her purple eyes were captivating, shining brightly as they reflected his own. Both began to blush, and Issei quickly got off and helped her up. I'm so sorry. I wasn't looking where I was going and... he stammered. It's all right, she replied. While she quickly recovered from her embarrassment, Issei noticed her attire, which he found beautiful. The purple and black colors suited her, but he struggled to keep his eyes on her face. Whenever he tried to look directly at her, he found himself drawn to her eyes, making him look away in embarrassment. He then noticed his grocery bags on the ground, the snacks having fallen out. He sighed. "DM it." The girl looked down at the bags and decided to be friendly instead of upset. She found him rather cute. "Here, let me help you. It's the least I can do." She helped him pick up the snacks, and Issei complied, admitting to himself that it was his fault for not paying attention. However, he also realized that if he had been paying attention, he wouldn't have encountered someone like her, beautiful, kind, and understanding. As they filled the grocery bags with the snacks again, he picked them up and felt the need to apologize for what had happened earlier. "Hey, I'm sorry for not paying attention to where I was going." "It's all right," she assured him. "I wasn't really paying attention either, to be honest." She smiled lightly to lighten the atmosphere, but then she realized something, making her eyes widen as she began to frantically look around. "Oh no, where did it go?" she exclaimed. "Where did what go?" Issei asked, looking around. He soon realized he was stepping on something and stepped off of it, picking it up. It was a book, and when he read the title in his head, he was honestly surprised. "Is this an adult book?" he wondered aloud. When the girl heard him say this, she blushed profusely and quickly swiped it from his grasp, catching Issei off guard as she held it against her chest with both arms. It's not what you think," she stammered. "Wait a moment. I'm sorry that I invaded your privacy." Issei replied, feeling a bit guilty. She sighed, looking a little down, but managed a small smile. "It's fine. I'm Issei Hyoudou, by the way. May I know your name, considering that we're talking right now?" Now revealed to be Issei, she was clearly embarrassed that her secret was out in the open. Issei cleared his throat, trying to remain calm. He knew this was a rather awkward situation, so he needed to act cool and play along. "Issei Hyoudou. Look, I can understand how you feel. Considering that I am technically the same," he admitted. He then realized what he had just blurted out, making him a bit nervous. "Oh no. Why did I say that?" Issei looked at him with surprise. "What? Wait a minute. Are you?" Issei realized he had no choice but to admit it now. "Yeah. I'm a pervert." "Wait, if you are. Can we be friends?" she asked, her expression brightening. Issei blinked a few times, confused. He noticed she seemed happy about his admission, which was unexpected. I know it sounds weird, but I guess I have no problem with you at all. Besides, I'm a little bit perverted myself." Issei admitted, tapping her fingers together, feeling embarrassed. The strange flippers near her ears moved up and down in a particular rhythm. Issei questioned if those were real, but what surprised him most was her courage to admit it out loud. For some reason, this strangely made him happy. He felt tears of joy forming and grabbed her hands, shaking them as if forming a handshake, feeling like he could finally be his true self. "Of course. I would love to be your friend. Can I get your number?" he asked eagerly. Issei was caught off guard but laughed awkwardly as she gave him her number. She had to leave soon for her activities, and as she quickly left, Issei facepalmed himself, feeling rather foolish. "Darn it. Why did I have to be so bold? I think I got a bit too excited. But hopefully I don't screw that up too," he thought. "Hey Issei." Maria called out, running to catch up with him. "Mari," he replied, blinking a few times. "There you are. I was asked by the others to come get you since you were taking a little while," Maria explained. Issei realized he must have taken too long, having completely forgotten that he had to deliver snacks. He quickly shrugged off the experience he had just had. "Oh, sorry about that, Mari. I had a bit of trouble, but I got everything." He picked up the grocery bags and followed Maria back to the bowling alley. Meanwhile, in Ver Vermilion Student Council office, Ver was looking through some files he had recently received, containing pictures of murder victims. Though he wasn't focused on that, he was currently on a phone call. "This is a lot of speculation coming from you, detective," he said. "I am aware of that, But it is very clear that this isn't done by any normal human standards, a female voice on the phone replied, serious in tone. Ver maintained a neutral expression, trying to come up with possible solutions. Did each of these victims have something in common? From what I can gather, they technically worship devils, she explained. Really now? Where's the most recent murder? Ver inquired. Unfortunately, that is currently classified. If this got out to the public, it could cause some problems even for her, she warned. I get it. I suppose you can come pick me up soon? I could analyze what I think could be the cause, he suggested. I wouldn't mind having another brain, she replied. Ver chuckled a little, getting out of his seat. Very well. It's currently sunset, so pick me up when it gets dark. All right, see you then, she said before hanging up. Ver pocketed his phone, trying to come up with solutions. As far as he knew, these murders had been occurring for about 2 weeks. They were specific and targeted, with no consistency. He narrowed his eyes, aware that the specific targets were devil worshippers. They would summon a devil into their households for temporary contracts, which was mostly harmless unless something went wrong. He could only conclude that it could be a stray devil causing all of this, but he and his team had ensured there were no strays in the territory. It could be someone entirely different, and he knew he had to get his hands dirty to figure it out. Zayn had informed him that some people mentioned someone behind the murders, but they couldn't provide any proper descriptions. This is going to be a lot trickier with no proper information to go off of. Ver thought, preparing himself for the challenges ahead. But the fact that these victims were devil worshippers raised questions. Could the church be involved? He was unsure, knowing that the Cold War between the 3 factions wasn't really his business. However, if they had somehow leaked into this territory, he would need to force them out. Protecting the territory and ensuring that everyone lived in a peaceful environment was his job. It sounded rather outlandish at times, but he was committed to that ideal. He would have to investigate this himself now since his team had recently been hired to look into these murders. Just another typical assignment, he reassured himself. It was currently the middle of the night when Vermilion found himself inside the home of a recently murdered victim. He inspected every area of the house, checking for any other access points and evidence that could confirm his theories. Eventually, he made his way to the kitchen, where he found the victim's body, a slash wound across his torso. Ver narrowed his eyes, kneeling to get a better look. The cut was clearly intentional. He could imagine the victim suffering a slow and agonizing death. He felt a pang of sympathy for the victim but pushed it aside. He was here for a reason. Just then, he heard footsteps approaching. Without turning around, he knew who it was. The victim's a young male, roughly around 25 years of age, said Amelia Watson, a well-known young detective. My partner and I investigated everything we could without RSNG any suspicion from the public. This case has been kept under wraps for a while. Ver turned his head slightly to acknowledge her. Amelia had light blonde hair falling below her shoulders and blue eyes. She wore a light brown deerstalker hat with a checked pattern on the sides and a golden hairpin shaped like a magnifying glass. Her outfit consisted of a white blouse with a red tie, a light brown skirt with a checked pattern, and a light brown detective coat. Various syringes filled with her concoctions were strapped to her left leg, and she wore black high socks and dark brown shoes. I appreciate the good work you've done so far, Watson, Ver replied. If the public were aware of this situation, most of the humans living in Solii would start to live in fear. That's something we want to avoid, especially since the 3 factions have been in a Cold War for a while. That may be true, Amelia said, but there are things even I can't understand. While the motives are clear, killing devil worshippers, it's unclear who is behind this. Witnesses say that a man in religious attire was the last person to leave this home. Ver looked back at the body, sighing. The church's involvement was a possibility, considering that the patrons, known as priests, worshipped the biblical God and despised devils. Could it be the church? He asked. Most likely, Amelia replied. But the problem is that while that was the main description given, there haven't been any evidential pictures to back up the claims. We don't know this person's full appearance. Since this victim may have been killed recently, do you think you could perhaps see into his past before his soul passes on completely? Ver narrowed his eyes, uncertain whether he should attempt it. He stood back up and turned to Amelia. It isn't what my power is meant to do. I can only look into those who are alive and change their outcomes by making the right choices. I can't look into the deceased. Amelia tilted her cap down slightly, feeling disappointed. DMN. At least it was worth a shot. The only evidence we have at the moment is that we're dealing with a priest, Ver said. But it just doesn't make sense. How so? Amelia asked. Think about it, Watson. This priest has been able to move through the entire city without being detected, in a territory he shouldn't have stepped into. Usually, if something was off, she would have informed us by now. Amelia realized he was right and adjusted herself as she contemplated the situation. You might be right. It all just doesn't make sense. Perhaps we might not just be dealing with a priest, we might be dealing with a group. That's what I thought, Ver replied. If we're dealing with a group, it's unclear if they are all priests or a well-coordinated group that prevents themselves from being detected. There are only a few species capable of such feats. Since it involves devils, we might be dealing with a group belonging to one of the three factions. This is getting more complicated than I thought, Amelia said. I'll investigate as much as I can, perhaps I can retrace where they may be hiding. Yeah. But we can't expose ourselves if what we're saying is true. We'll have to lay low and take things slow. Inform your partner, Mr., to be ready at all times. You both might be staying up endless nights. Amelia chuckled slightly, turning around with a small smirk. Oh, don't worry, Ver. We'll get it done, I promise. Solii is a city I respect and want to protect. The three factions won't cause problems for now, but if she hasn't picked up on their presence, we need to be cautious. By the way, how is that assignment of yours going? Well, Issei Hyoudou is settling in. The group he's been with for the past few weeks has made him comfortable, according to Kotoka. I suppose that's a good thing. Still, I think this territory needs to be prepared for the unpredictable. We all have our struggles after all. Amelia then left the scene, and Ver sighed, knowing she was right in what she said. He was aware that while other mythologies and groups might be avoiding the territory he inhabited, there would come a time when the protective walls of such ideals would be tested. He knew he would be ready when that time arrived, but he wondered if the others would be. He was uncertain. Days had passed since Issei Hyoudou had that bowling experience with his roommates. Many things had been happening, and he found himself increasingly involved in activities he had not anticipated. The first change was his growing interest in cooking, largely thanks to Maria, who consistently assisted him when it was their turn to prepare meals for the group. He enjoyed these moments, appreciating the time spent with her. He thought that perhaps learning to cook could attract a girl's attention when the time was right. The second change was his budding friendship with Kuoh. The two had developed a friendly rivalry, especially after their bowling match, which had strengthened their bond. Kuoh began to talk to him more often, and they joked about their competitive nature. However, the main thing occupying Issei's thoughts during class was the constant stream of messages from Anna Ryugu, a girl he had met over the weekend. They connected over various topics, and he was surprised to find someone who shared his more playful side. She often made him blush with her candidness, and he tried his best to push those thoughts aside. While he was pleased to have found someone similar to himself, the fact that she appeared to be around his age made it all the more new and exciting. He rested his head on his desk with a sigh, attempting to calm his racing mind. Just then, he felt a tap on his shoulder and turned to see Issei. Are you doing okay? You look a bit tired, she said. Oh, I'm all right. I just have a lot on my mind at the moment, he replied. I suppose that's true. You're new and still adjusting to the school curriculum. Just try to get some sleep tonight, and you'll feel refreshed tomorrow, Issei suggested. Sure, he said, though he wasn't sure if he would actually manage to get a good night's sleep. With everything going on, he felt he needed some time alone to sort through his thoughts. He stood up as class ended for the day. Oh yeah, I'm going to walk around Solii for some fresh air today. Is that all right? I might end up getting back late. It's no worries. Just make sure you return in time for dinner, all right? Kay smiled and he returned her smile. Yeah, no problem. He left the classroom, eager to clear his head. As he walked through the streets, he finally had the chance to experience what the city had to offer, having spent most of his time with his roommates. As the sun began to set, he found himself leaning against the railing of a small bridge overlooking a river in Issei Park. The park was beautiful, with vibrant green grass and a mix of foreign trees alongside cherry blossom trees. He gazed down at the river, observing his reflection in the water as the setting sun cast a warm glow. Despite the picturesque scene, his expression was troubled, revealing the conflict within him. His mind had been racing ever since he left Kuoh for Issei. Issei was much larger than Kuoh, being a coastal city, while Kuoh was more inland and predictable. Although he had enjoyed his time in Issei more than in Kuoh, he still missed his home. He reminisced about the time spent with Matsuda and Motohama, the trouble they often got into, and how they motivated each other to keep going. Kuoh Academy had been a dream come true for him during his first year, even if he had often felt belittled by the strict student council president, Sona Sutori. He respected Sona's role, even if her serious demeanor often clashed with his more carefree nature. His experience at ILUNA Academy was much better, and he had been trying to keep his more mischievous tendencies in check to avoid trouble. Yet he missed that side of himself and wished he could express it more freely, but his parents had always been against it. While they never explicitly stated their disapproval, he sensed it in their eyes. During family dinners, as he shared his dreams and desires, he noticed their expressions, kind yet sorrowful, whenever they caught sight of the posters adorning his room. He knew they were good people, not wanting to hinder his aspirations. Oddly, he respected that, though he wished they had been more open about their feelings. Perhaps being more forthcoming could have prevented his transfer to another school. Yet, as he reflected on it, he found himself grateful to his father for shaping him into the person he was today. He knew he was just a teenager who liked women. He admired their bodies and curves, a habit formed during his upbringing. His goal was to become the harem king, a selfish yet noble aspiration in his eyes. However, every time he tried to pursue this dream, he found himself falling short, which was infuriating. He often wondered why others couldn't accept him for who he was. Why did he have to maintain a false image to please others while neglecting his own happiness? Perhaps he didn't understand what girls wanted, or maybe he was oblivious to their thoughts and feelings. The idea that his dreams might be foolish saddened him. Kuoh Academy had been an all-girls school that became co-ed, resulting in a female-heavy student body. In contrast, ILUNA Academy had a more balanced ratio from the start. Although he enjoyed his time there, he felt a sense of homesickness. He missed the mischievous adventures he had with his family. Living in Issei brought about an emotional conflict. His roommates showed care and understanding, often teasing him in a friendly manner. While he tried to get along with them, he struggled to connect. It wasn't an ideal situation for him. He wanted to be himself, but it felt nearly impossible. He recalled his parents' advice, to focus on his education to secure a good job. He sighed and spoke aloud, voicing his frustrations. Issei expressed his confusion about his situation, feeling lost after being transferred. He reflected on his past experiences at Kuoh, where he often got into trouble for sneaking glances. Now, he felt like he was at rock bottom, yet not entirely. He leaned against the railing of a bridge, narrowing his eyes. ILUNA Academy was great, but he felt out of place. Everyone was nice, including the girls, which was unfamiliar to him. He found it challenging to keep his composure around them. Mari was the first girl to be approachable, while Aia acted distant, only speaking to him when necessary. Scarl sometimes asked him questions, but he often avoided answering. Even Finana seemed too similar to him, leaving him wishing he knew how to properly interact with women. He questioned why they even talked to someone like him, understanding that Kotoka was simply ensuring he settled into his new school. As Friday arrived and classes ended, the student council convened. Zayn recounted the events of Issei's encounter with a girl who gave off a bad vibe. Ver listened attentively from his desk. Ver asked for clarification on the situation, and Zayn explained that the girl had approached Issei, acting like a nervous schoolgirl, but she was trouble. Ver inquired about the accuracy of her assessment, to which Zayn responded that no ordinary girl would confess feelings to someone she had never met. Issei's naivety had led him to accept her confession. Hex Haywire chimed in, noting that Issei's background as a former student of an all-girls school likely contributed to his behavior. He explained that while boys openly expressed their desires, girls often held back unless they were obvious. Issei had experienced difficulties with the opposite sex, and his passive demeanor was a result of not wanting to face those challenges again. Kotoka Toraheim expressed her curiosity about Issei, admitting that when she spoke to him, he often looked down, trying to correct himself. Ver acknowledged that Issei was making an effort to be respectful despite his past. Doppio Dropside voiced his frustration, suggesting that he would prefer to see Issei gone. However, if Issei was indeed a host to one of the heavenly dragons, they would need to intervene. Ver agreed with Doppio's logic but emphasized the importance of not acting hastily. Maloko Kyorin asked for clarification, prompting Ver to explain that immediate intervention could jeopardize their target. The situation was more complex than they realized, involving a priest who was killing devil worshippers and possibly a larger group behind it all. If what Zayn said is true, then this girl might be in league with them. If that girl is planning on harming Issei Hyoudou, they would jump in to protect him. However, they couldn't give their cover away. While their small group was known amongst the supernatural and mythologies, most didn't know what they looked like. Kotoka was instructed to inform Aia Amare about this and to ensure that she played along, including the group that lived with Issei at the moment. Kotoka nodded and left the room, though Zayn narrowed her eyes, suspicious of Ver's plans. Zayn asked, "What's the goal here, Prez?" Ver wore a small smile, acting innocent. "Isn't it obvious? We're simply doing a little spying operation. We can't let Issei die, not on our watch." Hex chimed in, "I see. Spying on their supposed date, only intervening when necessary, right?" Maloko added, "That is quite the plan, but would it really work? From what Kotoka has been saying about him, he isn't aware of the supernatural in any way." Ver replied, "I hear you, but if it comes down to it, I'll explain everything to him. For now, just relax. I'll step in if things go south." Time passed, and it was now Saturday. Issei was on the couch with Kuoh, both competing in a console game. Aster and Ren watched from behind the couch, cheering them on as they played a fighting game. Meanwhile, the three girls were in the dining room, connected to the living room. Kuoh shouted, "Come on. You know you're beat." Issei retorted, "I don't think so. You aren't the protagonist here." Kuoh paused for a moment, and Issei seized the opportunity to gain the upper hand. However, Kuoh quickly paused the game, staring at Issei. When the realization hit Ren and Aster, they looked at him in surprise. Kuoh asked, "Would you care to repeat that?" Issei hesitated. "You aren't the one with a date." Aster exclaimed, "Hold on a moment, since when did you?" Issei replied, "Since Thursday." Ren inquired, "How?" Issei explained, "The girl approached me." The three boys were immediately shocked. Kuoh, Aster, and Ren shouted in unison, "What?" Their loud reaction caused Issei to cover his ears, while the three girls were confused by the commotion. Maria was the first to approach the group. Maria asked, Hey, what's going on?" Kuoh exclaimed, "This guy apparently has a girlfriend." Maria blinked, looking at Issei. "Is this true?" Issei awkwardly replied, Yeah." Feeling out of place, Issei didn't know how to respond. While he might have bragged about it to his friends back in Kuoh, here it felt confusing. Maria's eyes sparkled with genuine happiness. Maria said, "Wait, really? Issei, you actually got a girlfriend?" Ren remarked, "Honestly, I usually get girls flocking around me, and I hardly ever noticed a single one approaching you, hotshot." Issei protested, "Hey, is that an insult?" Ren shrugged, "Was it?" Aster encouraged, "Oh, relax. Just tell us everything, Issei. How did you two meet?" Issei began, "Well, we met in the park when I was taking in some fresh air, right before I came back here for dinner. She approached me, asked me out, and I didn't want to be rude, so yeah." Kuoh warned, "You know that girl was probably a red flag, right? No one walks up to a guy like you and just confesses." Issei defended, "Hey, you don't know her." Kuoh pressed, All right then, what's her name? As Issei opened his mouth to answer, he suddenly realized he never asked the girl her name, making the situation awkward. Issei stammered. It was the spur of the moment, and I didn't ask so. AIA and Scarl approached the group, having heard the commotion. They asked, You don't know her name? Issei replied, Well, I'm going to meet her again tomorrow, so I need to be prepared. Any advice? They suggested, Since you don't know her personally, it would be best to be quite presentable. Maria chimed in, How about a neat and fancy outfit? Kuoh interjected, Mari, he isn't going to a ball or something. Rin proposed, Perhaps something casual? Scarl added, Something casual and alluring, perhaps? Aster agreed, I could see that working. They countered, I don't think he needs to be that alluring, you guys. Something casual is good enough. Kuoh remarked, He clearly doesn't need good looks if he was approached. The group began bickering about what advice to give Issei, while he felt he had made a big mistake. Although he appreciated the advice, he realized they were escalating into an argument. Seizing the opportunity, he quietly slipped away, exiting through the front door. He sighed in relief, glad to avoid witnessing any potential chaos. Now, he needed to come up with a different solution. Nervous about tomorrow, he pondered what a girl truly wanted. He feared he could mess it up easily if he wasn't prepared. He considered calling Matsuda and Motohama for advice but knew they would likely become jealous and overreact instead of offering helpful tips. Then he realized there was one person he could call. He quickly took out his phone, scrolling through his contacts. He picked up the phone and waited patiently for the person on the other end to answer. About an hour later, Issei and Finana were sitting in a cafe, discussing the situation. Issei sought her advice, hoping that a girl's perspective would help him navigate this new relationship. He had explained everything he could to the best of his ability while Finana listened intently. Although it sounded like a dream come true, she felt a bit foolish for not coming up with something like this on the spot if she were ever to confront someone she liked. Despite her tendency to imagine flirtatious scenarios to attract attention, she often found herself socially awkward. Once Issei finished explaining, Finana finally spoke. She asked, So, this girl you met on Thursday asked you out, but you didn't get her name and now you're going on a date with her tomorrow? And you don't know what to do or how to please her? Issei confirmed, Yes, that's the summary of it. Finana pondered carefully, recognizing the many variables at play. Well, it's a tough question to answer. If I were to go out on a date, I think I would dress in a way that makes me feel comfortable. Being yourself and comfortable around your partner can help ease any tension. At least that's what I've read. Issei considered this. Dress up how I would want to? Exactly. A date should progress at the pace of both partners. Although I haven't been on a date before, I've heard that a first date can go in many directions. So maybe the best course of action is to not overthink it. Issei realized, Wow, you're right. I must be overthinking it too much, huh? Finana nodded. You and I are similar in that regard. But if you want to look presentable, I could help. She looked away, blushing slightly, as this would be her first time helping someone of the opposite section. Issei felt a rush of warmth at her offer, grateful that she was willing to assist him instead of dismissing his concerns. That would be great. Back at my old school, most girls would get angry at me for just looking at them, he admitted. Oh, I see. So you have no experience in making a girl happy. I can help you with that. I'll show you some great spots for dates and which shops might be beneficial. Some girls appreciate gifts as reminders of their time together, and it's a way to win their hearts. Issei hesitated. Since you're helping me, how about you come along? You could help me right now. But I don't want to force you. He looked away awkwardly, feeling as if he were putting her in an uncomfortable position. Finana quickly reassured him, treating it like a friendly outing. I don't mind at all. We're both learning from each other. I see this as a wonderful opportunity to become closer friends, wouldn't you agree, Issei? Yeah, you're right. Thanks, I really appreciate it, he replied. The two exchanged shy glances, unsure how to continue their conversation. Eventually, they left for the mall to begin their shopping adventure. As the sun began to set, Finana helped Issei significantly, even if their time together was filled with embarrassing and awkward moments. He learned that dressing comfortably was essential, and while physical attractiveness mattered, it was also about how he communicated. He felt more confident about expressing himself. He also made a note of the locations Anna recommended for gifts, which were reasonably priced and would help him win a girl's heart. They explored various shops, allowing Issei to learn more about what the girl he was going to meet might like. During their time together, Anna guided Issei through clothing stores, which turned out to be more embarrassing than he anticipated. She helped him pick out fashionable clothes from her perspective, and when he looked good in them, she couldn't help but blush and turn away, trying to maintain her composure. One important lesson she taught him was to compliment in a friendly manner rather than being too direct. She playfully selected outfits to catch his attention, and while he often gave positive feedback, he occasionally stumbled into awkward territory, causing Anna to blush heavily. As their day wound down, they decided to eat at a nearby restaurant and discuss various topics. They enjoyed their conversation, feeling comfortable with one another. Issei realized that hanging out with Anna wasn't as nerve-wracking as he had initially thought. Although it was still somewhat awkward, it felt more like spending time with a friend from Kuoh. "Thanks for helping me out, Anna. I wouldn't have been prepared for tomorrow without your guidance," he said. Anna looked to the side, her cheeks slightly pink. "No worries. I had a really good time today, anyway. It is nice to hang out once in a while. We should do this more often." Issei had a bit of a smile, though he rubbed the back of his neck, feeling slightly awkward about it. He asked Anna if she really didn't mind. Anna looked at him, smiling lightly, brimming with happiness. She assured him that she really didn't mind. Even though she wouldn't be watching him try to impress the girl, she would at least hear the end results from him. Issei thought to himself that without Anna boosting his confidence today, he doubted he would have been able to face that girl tomorrow. He wondered why it felt so pride-shattering. Anna noticed he seemed deep in thought and tilted her head slightly, asking if he was all right. Issei replied that he was okay, just reflecting on how he wouldn't have been able to be confident for tomorrow without her help. He regretted admitting that out loud, feeling the awkwardness in the air. Anna kept a warm smile, blushing lightly, and said she was just doing what she could to help a friend. She chuckled awkwardly as they continued their walk. However, from above one of the buildings, a figure with black feathered wings watched them carefully. Her long raven-black hair flowed with the wind as her shining purple eyes narrowed. She thought to herself that this would be easier than she thought and that soon the sacred gear would be out of the picture. Then she took flight, leaving behind some black feathers. It was a busy day in Solii City Square as Issei sat patiently awaiting his date. He was understandably nervous, struggling to keep his cool while recalling all the advice Anna had given him for when he met the girl. He reminded himself to ask her name since he had forgotten to do so before, then to take her for a stroll and end the date at the park. He felt insecure, wondering if it was some sort of prank and if the girl had tricked him. He tried to keep himself occupied by looking through his phone. Among the crowd, Vermilion sat at a cafe, drinking a warm beverage while keeping an eye on Issei from a distance, ensuring he wasn't seen. Thought to himself that he hoped no harm would come to Issei, but he couldn't directly involve himself unless he saw Issei's life being threatened. He found the unfolding date quite entertaining. Soon, a girl with raven-black hair approached Issei, calling his name. He turned his head, greeting her as kindly as possible. He awkwardly mentioned that she hadn't told him her name. The girl giggled, blushing slightly, and introduced herself as Yuma Amano. Issei complimented her name, and she asked where they would be going. They began their walk, chatting and getting to know one another. Finished his drink, left a tip, and followed them closely but out of sight. As the sun began to set, Issei and Yuma headed toward Solii Park, the first place they had met a few days ago. Followed behind, hiding behind trees as he reflected on the date so far. From what he observed, the date seemed ordinary, but perhaps a bit too perfect. They had gone clothing shopping, expressing their different tastes, and Issei even got Yuma a small present, a pink wristband that complemented her appearance. Noticed that Yuma occasionally wore a devilish smirk when Issei wasn't looking. Next, they ate at a diner and seemed to get along well. Still suspected that Yuma might not be who she claimed to be. They continued window shopping, leading them to Solei Park as the sun set. Ver whispered to himself that things seemed to be going smoothly, perhaps too smoothly, and wondered what Yuma might be up to. Issei, on the other hand, was having a great time on his first date. He managed to keep himself in check, enjoying every conversation, including the moments when Yuma hinted that she wanted him to make a move. Thanks to Finana's advice, he realized he might have been overthinking the situation. They stopped on the bridge where they had first met. Yuma walked a little ahead, stopping at the center of the bridge. The soothing sound of the river flowed beneath them, and the sunlight reflected their images. Yuma turned to look at Issei, still smiling naturally, prompting him to speak up. He expressed that he really enjoyed the date. "Thanks for asking me out, it really meant a lot." Issei chuckled awkwardly as Yuma responded in kind, keeping the mood as heartwarming as possible. "It was my pleasure. Can I ask you a question? In honor of our first date, there's something I'd like you to do." To commemorate this special moment, Yuma said, a hint of mischief in her voice. Issei thought to himself, wait, is she going to ask me to kiss her? No, that can't be it, right? While we did technically go on a date. It wouldn't be that weird, right? Sure. You can ask me for anything at all, he replied. Yuma stepped closer, stopping in front of Issei with a deviant smirk. Would you die for me? Issei thought he might have misheard her. What did you say? Sorry. Something must be wrong with my ears, I don't think I heard you correctly. Could you maybe repeat that one more time, please? He chuckled nervously as Yuma answered with more confidence. I want you to die for me. As she spoke, her clothing transformed into something more revealing, and she appeared more mature, sprouting a pair of black raven-like wings. She laughed lightly, leaving Issei stunned, unable to move or think. The mature-looking woman before him had a menacing presence that paralyzed him with fear. Meanwhile, Ver watched from behind a tree, narrowing his eyes. A fallen angel, huh? Ver muttered to himself. The woman continued, well, I have to admit, I did have some fun today. Considering how naive and childish you are, things could have been much, much worse. Thanks a lot for the gift too. Very sweet. Issei's thoughts raced. What the hell is she? Is she a demon? Those wings. Why is she so terrifying even though she's attractive? Still stunned, Issei didn't know how to react. Ver realized the situation could escalate quickly. This fallen angel clearly wasn't here with good intentions. She began to form a strange spear-like weapon made of red energy, indicating she was using a spear of light. Yuma, Issei started. It's time to die, she declared, preparing to stab him. Suddenly, a blur appeared in front of Issei as Ver intervened, raising his hand to create a circular glyph made of red magic energy that blocked the spear, causing the fallen angel to stumble back. Issei finally moved, but he fell onto his rear, shaking with fear and confusion, unable to process what was happening. You all right, Issei Hyoudou? Ver asked calmly. President? Issei managed to say. I'll explain everything to you once this is over. For now, just stay back and don't get in front of me, no matter what, okay? Ver instructed, his tone steady. Issei nodded, still shaken. The fallen angel, agitated and confused about Ver's presence, realized he was using magic, which she hadn't expected. A magician? She questioned. Not quite, Ver replied, lowering his hand and relaxing his posture while keeping his gaze fixed on her. Issei Hyoudou is under my protection. I would advise you to leave while you still have the chance. Who are you? She demanded. I'm Ver Vermilion. Unfortunately, you are trespassing into restricted territories, as the 3 factions aren't allowed around these parts. Would you care to give me your name, Fallen? She gritted her teeth, preparing 2 more spears of light. Flapping her wings, she ascended and hurled the spears at both Issei and Ver. As they stood on the bridge, a bright red circular glyph appeared beneath Ver, who quickly grabbed Issei and teleported away just as the spears struck the bridge, destroying it. After the explosion, as the smoke cleared, it was evident that both Issei and Ver were gone, leaving the fallen angel frustrated. Son of it. This is getting more complicated than I would have liked. Who is this Vermilion BSTRD? No matter, even though Issei Hyoudou holds a sacred gear, he wouldn't know how to wield it as he seems utterly clueless. She sighed, hovering in the air. Yeah. Hyoudou won't be an issue, and this vermilion doesn't seem that strong. I should head back before more of their lackeys find me. With that, she took flight, leaving the scene before things escalated further. Meanwhile, Ver and Issei had teleported into an alleyway, where Ver remained calm, while Issei was overwhelmed with mixed emotions. He couldn't shake the feeling that he had narrowly escaped death and was desperate for answers. Ver focused on ensuring they weren't being followed. Looks like we're in the clear, Ver said. Ver, I really need to know. What just happened? I was having a date with a gorgeous girl, and then she turned into a strange winged figure that wanted to kill me. Issei exclaimed. Calm down. I know it was shocking and probably life-threatening for you. It could even end up being traumatic, but I will answer your questions and explain everything tomorrow after school. Give it time to clear your head, okay? Ver reassured him. Issei wanted to protest, but after being saved by Ver, he took a deep breath and complied. But I better get some answers. I promise you that much. Come, I'll walk you home, Ver said. Issei followed Ver, puzzled by how calm and relaxed he remained after the ordeal. He wondered if Ver was accustomed to such situations or simply indifferent. Regardless, he knew he would get the answers he sought the following day. So all he can hope for at the moment is that he does get all the answers. As night approached, close to midnight, the fallen angel who had attempted to kill Issei landed in the middle of a forest on the outskirts of Solii City. She was clearly agitated that things hadn't gone her way, as she had been so close to eliminating what she thought would be a problem. Yet, the more she thought about it, the more she realized that perhaps, for now, Issei Hyoudou wasn't a problem. However, Vermilion could end up being troublesome, as she didn't know enough about him or the faction she was entering. Governor General Azazel had always warned her to stay away from this particular region. Although she was aware that entering this territory was risky, she was determined to become a strong fallen angel who could be truly loyal to Azazel. However, her progress had been slow. Even if Issei supposedly possessed a powerful sacred gear and was someone to watch out for, she couldn't understand what made him so special. From what she had seen and felt, he seemed rather ordinary and was unaware of her true nature. Rainier, you sure took your sweet time, a voice called out from above. Rainier looked up into the branches of a tree and saw 3 other fallen angels, her followers in this endeavor. The one who had spoken was Donasik, a man wearing a coat and a fedora. The other 2, Cal Warner with blue hair and Middle with blonde hair, were perched on the branches, both strong in their own right. Rainier scoffed, not wanting to discuss her delay. This operation of ours is starting to get more complicated. Really? Middle responded, her curiosity piqued. I was close to killing the brat, but he was saved by a mere human who must be working for whoever is in charge of this territory, Rainier explained. Things have certainly become more difficult than we could have hoped for, Cal Warner added. How could a mere human cause trouble? Donasik questioned. It doesn't matter now. Issei Hyoudou won't be a problem. He doesn't seem much of a threat. It didn't make sense why he could be one, but he clearly isn't. The true threat is the unknowns we face, Rainier concluded. Why should we worry about the ones in charge if they never bother to show up? Middle pouted, struggling to understand the need for caution. Because we don't know who our current enemies are. The mere human could fend off Rainier with ease, then we do have a problem on our hands, Cal Warner replied. Donasik agreed with Cal Warner's assessment. The 3 fallen angels then leaped from the branches, using their wings to slow their descent to the ground. Once they landed, Rainier began formulating a new strategy. While we have that rogue priest Fried Selzen doing some dirty work to throw them off, we clearly aren't seeing the bigger picture, she said. It's because you underestimated those within Satinal's territory, a voice chimed in from above. The group turned to see someone standing on a branch. She had short blonde hair, light blue eyes, and a leafy-themed hair ribbon. Dressed in a traditional Japanese robe with a sword attached to her back, Rainier recognized her as Iroha Kazama, a member of a secretive group that had helped them enter this territory undetected. Satinal? What are you talking about, human? Rainier asked, her irritation evident. Iroha shrugged with a calm demeanor. If you must know, Satinol is the one who caused the existence of fallen angels and demons. While Solii City is part of her territory, she also controls another place in the underworld. Those details are better left for your leaders to explain. However, my boss is willing to cooperate as long as you keep your end of the bargain. Rainier gritted her teeth, trying to remain calm. I am doing what I can, so your boss better do the same. A black crow-like bird landed on Iroha's shoulder. Asia Argento, the priestess with the sacred gear known as Twilight Healing, will soon arrive in Solii City. She will be set up in the abandoned church not far from the outskirts of the city. My boss believes you know where that is. Of course we do. We've been using that as our base of operations since we got here. Middlet exclaimed. Well then, that is all the help we can provide. As long as you stick to our agreements, the secret society welcomes you, Iroha stated. I think you misunderstood me when I told you before that, Rainier began, that your loyalties are true only to the fallen angel faction. We are aware of your side of the agreement. However, my boss doesn't like setbacks. Fail to complete your task and what you hope to achieve, and you will be exposed to your faction. That is the drawback of this agreement, but even when you fail, you will not remember my face, Iroha interrupted. What kind of rules are those? Middlet protested. The secret society prefers to keep their secrets and remain hidden from the other mythologies. Our goals are only known among true members, while the world remains unaware of our progress. This is your chance to prove yourself. You can remain loyal to Governor General Azazel, but you can also follow our cause. You have the freedom to make your own choices while under my boss's orders. We will be watching you, Iroha concluded. With that, Iroha leapt off the branch and suddenly disappeared, leaving the fallen group confused about her sudden exit. Though Rainier contemplated the nature of her agreement, she realized she could betray them and get what she wanted anyway. Nothing was stopping her, and she had no intention of changing that. The next day, Issei Hyoudou returned to ILUNA Academy, trying to act as if nothing had happened. He was uncertain about the events of the previous day, but on his way home, Ver had instructed him to keep everything to himself until he understood the seriousness of the situation. Ver promised to discuss it with him after school, leaving Issei unsure if he was still trapped in a bad dream. As the school day ended, Issei made his way to Ver's office. Upon entering, he was surprised to see many familiar faces. Ver Vermilion sat at his desk, with Katoka Toraheim standing beside him. Kuoh, Maria, Skarl, Aster, Ren, and E were lounging on the large couch, while some unfamiliar faces, presumably the rest of the student council body, filled the room. Hex Haywire sat in another chair, sipping what appeared to be tea, and Zayn Lanza sat cross-legged on the floor, typing on her laptop until she noticed Issei's entrance. Maloko Kyorin stood calmly with Doppio Dropscythe, who wore a stern expression upon seeing Issei. Ver was the first to speak. Issei. Glad you could make it. Issei replied, I wasn't expecting so many people here. Am I in trouble? He giggled softly, finding the situation amusing. No, you're not, Issei. It can be surprising to see your roommates here, but just listen to Ver. He'll explain everything. Issei gulped, still unclear about the purpose of this gathering, aside from the events he had experienced the day before. He remained quiet, trying to stay calm, which Ver took as his cue to begin. Well, Issei, to tell you the truth, this is going to be fairly difficult to explain. What happened to you yesterday was quite complicated, wasn't it? Issei nodded. Oh, yeah. I tried to pretend it never happened, but I don't understand why I was going to be killed by Yuma. Let me start from the beginning, Ver continued. You see, we may all look human, but some of us are not. What? Issei responded, confusion evident on his face. To put it simply, Issei Hyoudou, we are part of what humanity refers to as the supernatural. It's hard to believe at first, but while the average person is unaware of such things, they are indeed real. That fallen angel who tried to kill you yesterday is living proof, don't you think? Issei wanted to respond, but he could only remain silent, speechless, and unsure if he was losing his mind. Maria spoke up to support her friend. Issei, I'm sorry I didn't know you were tricked into a murder scheme. It's painful to think about even now. However, what Ver is saying is true. You are connected, which made you a target for that woman. I really don't know if I can believe it. Issei admitted. Doppio interjected, that isn't up to you. Issei wanted to retort, but Kuoh defended him. Come on, Dropscythe. You can't treat him like that. He had a traumatic experience yesterday. Doppio shrugged. Do I look like I care? Ver intervened. All right, you two. We don't want to cause a scene right now. Issei, if you want further proof, we can provide it. Everyone in this room is unique in their own way. Let's start with your roommates, as they have interesting experiences to share. Issei looked toward them, feeling nervous and overwhelmed. He hoped that perhaps this would ease his mind and prove he wasn't going insane. Amare, the first to meet Issei, stood up to speak. Well, Issei, I guess I shall go first. She cleared her throat. In truth, I'm what is known as an angel. An angel? You can't be serious, Issei began, but before he could finish, white feathered wings sprouted from Aia's back, causing Issei's eyes to widen in disbelief. While it captivated him, it also reminded him of the painful experience he had just endured. I'm an angel from the angel faction that worships and follows the teachings of the biblical God. However, I've been sent down for further studies and some DSP. DSPLN? Issei stammered. Ver explained, Amare here is a special case. Most angels who cause trouble and commit sinful acts tend to become fallen angels. However, in her case, she is unique. She was sent down here to learn DSPLN and understand humanity. Wait, so what about the time you mentioned getting in trouble? Issei asked. To be blunt, I was a bit of a delinquent, A admitted. Issei raised an eyebrow. It still sounds strange that an angel would be a delinquent. He wore a deadpan expression, unsure how to react. He had imagined angels to be glamorous figures, but seeing Aia with her wings made him reconsider. Perhaps angels were more complex and had strict rules. Ver continued, however, she has been an excellent student here. Who's next? Maria stood up as Aia's wings disappeared, allowing her to sit down. She adjusted her glasses and began, well, Issei, my story is a little bit. Issei was trying to wrap his head around what Maria had just said. How so? He asked, genuinely curious. You see, I wasn't originally human. I was actually a doll that was turned into a human, Maria explained. Issei blinked a few times, hardly believing it. He scratched his head, struggling to visualize how that was possible. I'm struggling to see the picture here, he admitted. I don't remember how it happened, but all I could remember before it was that I was lonely. Maria's expression turned somber for a moment, but she quickly shook her head and returned to her cheerful demeanor. Although when I turned human, I was technically lost, and I managed to be found by Ver. He allowed me into ILUNA Academy to understand human cultures, and I'll say, I'm glad to have met you, Issei. Her eye was closed, and she wore a genuine smile that made Issei's heart skip a beat. He found her adorable but couldn't shake the feeling that she was holding something back. He had seen a glimpse of her sadness, but he felt it would be rude to pry into her private life. Ver interjected, we are still trying to track the individual who brought her to life, but Maria Marionette here is settling in. Next. Kuoh sighed, remaining seated. Long story short, I was reincarnated and brought here. What? That's it? Issei asked, surprised. Well, yeah, I was brought here, and I don't even know what had changed about me in the first place. I feel like I do have something, but I can't figure out how or what. So don't even bother to ask me. Okay. Issei replied, still trying to process Kuoh's words. After seeing Aia reveal her angel wings, he decided to believe it. He felt as if he might have woken up in some sort of dream. The next to speak was Aster Arcadia. I'll go next as I see no problem in it. I'm a celestial born from a supernova, Aster announced. That sounds really overpowered, dude. Issei remarked. I don't really fight, nor do I intend to. Besides, my memories are a little fuzzy, so I don't really remember much. But don't worry, I'll make sure that we're all allies at the end of this. Ver added. Technically, it would be advisable that he doesn't fight at all. We aren't fully aware of his capabilities, and we wouldn't want to risk anything. But seriously, it sounds so overpowered, Issei exclaimed, finding it strange that he was acquainted with what he could imagine to be a god or something. He decided not to overthink it. Next was Scarl Yanaguni, who was relaxing on the couch. Well, I'm an enchantress, one who specializes in magic that can put something or someone under a spell. So don't try to do anything rash, okay? She teased, winking at Issei. He looked away, blushing slightly, feeling uncomfortable since he had just learned that the supernatural was real. Then he turned to Renzato. What are you supposed to be? Oh yeah, I'm actually an alien. I'm from another world, that much is obvious. However, I'm actually a prince, Ren replied. An alien prince? No wonder why you're a playboy, Issei said. Hey now. You didn't have to put it like that, you know? Ren protested. I'm on Issei's side on this, Kuoh chimed in. Ver explained, you see, Renzato came here originally for different purposes. He was sent to conquer Earth, but he simply decided to do something else entirely. Wait, you're an alien prince that was sent to conquer us? You surprisingly don't look intimidating at all, Issei remarked. Was I intending to be? Ren asked, confused. I honestly thought that aliens would look more intimidating, Issei admitted. Ver cleared his throat, gaining Issei's attention. Now that you've gotten acquainted with your roommates, it's time for us, the student council, to introduce ourselves properly. I don't mind going first if that's all right with you, Prez? Kotoka offered. Sure, go right ahead, Ver replied. Kotoka smiled as she walked up to Issei. You remember that picture I took of you on your first day here? Yeah. I do. Issei responded, puzzled. For you see, I can take the appearance of anybody I want. It's a unique power that I have. I guess a demonstration would be best to show off. She concentrated, closing her eyes as a strange form of energy surrounded her. When the energy dissipated, Issei was dumbstruck to see himself standing there instead. He felt speechless and confused, finding the situation rather strange. His thoughts briefly wandered, but he quickly shook them off to remain calm. Kotoka transformed back into herself, still cheerful. I can take the form of anybody, but at the expense that I can't have their power or personality. So I have to mimic the original person's personality to act completely like that person. Pretty neat, isn't it? It's awesome, but oddly weird. Issei replied. Kotoka is really useful in our group. With her disguises, she can get anywhere she wants, as long as she knows enough about them for it to work, especially with her being the vice president. Maloko Kyorin was next to speak, somewhat nervous since this was her first time talking to Issei. Despite her nerves, she maintained her mature demeanor. I'm Maloko Kyorin. I'm an exorcist who specializes in neutralizing demons and ghosts. Ver added, she's also our event coordinator here at this school. So whatever event takes place on our campus, she'll ensure that everything runs smoothly. However, even though she is an exorcist, she can do things beyond just exorcism. Hex Haywire nodded as he introduced himself. I'm Hex Haywire. I'm the counselor of the student council. I, however, have a unique capability that comes with a cost, Hex stated. Issei asked, what kind of cost? Hex explained, to put it simply, I can absorb the pain of others, taking their memories of negative and traumatizing events. However, it comes with the cost of my own well-being. Ver added, what he means is that the more pain he takes away from an individual, his own health can deteriorate. So it's better if he holds back from using his capabilities unless it is necessary. Although, he has also learned to absorb other memories besides the negatives, which allows for better information gathering. Zayn Lanza was next. She sighed, closing her laptop, clearly reluctant to talk to Issei but feeling compelled to comply. Zayn Lanza, treasurer of the student council. I don't need to explain myself to you, she said coldly. Issei's eyes widened slightly, nervous about how she seemed to know about his past. Ver quickly clarified, apologies for her behavior, Issei. She can be distant at times, But once she warms up to you, she's a good person. She's one of our information gatherers and quite skilled at combat. He doesn't need to know, Prez, Zayn interjected, her tone frosty as she sought to limit the information shared. Ver chuckled softly, scratching his cheek. Yeah, sorry, Zayn. He then cleared his throat and turned to Doppio Dropscythe. You're up, Doppio. Doppio closed his eyes, mirroring Zayn's reluctance, but he spoke nonetheless. Doppio Dropscythe, I'm the enforcer of the student council. He opened his eyes, narrowing them as he glared at Issei. You better behave or we're going to have a problem. Issei stammered, At that moment, he felt increasingly anxious, realizing that the student council likely knew about his life in Kuoh, judging by Doppio and Zayn's behavior. Ver stood up, leaning against his desk. And that leaves me, Vermillion, president of the student council. As much as I would like to share information about myself, I would rather keep that classified for now. Is this enough proof for you, Issei Hyoudou? Issei had no choice but to accept this as truth. He sighed and replied, Yeah. Good, that means we can get down to business, Ver said. Business? What are you talking about? Issei asked, confused. Ver explained, You see, we, the student council, are actually a group known as Solial. We are humans known among the supernatural as humans for hire. We were hired to keep an eye on you and protect you if things go south. By that logic, things have gone south, making you a target of a fallen angel. Wait, you mentioned Yuma being a fallen angel. What does that mean? Issei inquired. Ver continued, I don't believe her name to be Yuma Amano. She must have targeted you because of your hidden power stored inside you, your sacred gear. A sacred what? Issei asked, bewildered. AIA chimed in. A sacred gear is a powerful weapon passed down to humans to offer protection from the three factions during the Great War. Ver elaborated. The sacred gears provide many benefits, allowing their wielders to confront supernatural opponents. They were passed down by the biblical God and are considered a gift to humanity. However, my boss believes that you contain a very special power, the power of a dragon. To be more specific, that of a dragon emperor. Issei exclaimed, What does that even mean? I have a dragon living inside me? Ver shrugged, trying to clarify. Honestly, yes. You have the soul of a dragon inside you. Though I believe it to be dormant since you weren't aware of it. Understandably, you are weak given the circumstances and your long ignorance of the supernatural. We have work to do to draw out this power so we can understand what we're dealing with. Wait, hold on a moment. Why would I go along with your crazy scheme? I know you saved me yesterday, but, Issei protested. Issei Hyoudou, Ver interjected firmly. That fallen angel targeted you because you were perceived as a threat. She is most likely not alone, and she won't stop trying to kill you. You are currently under our care and guidance. We'll help you improve and figure out what to do. You help us, we help you. Is that simple enough? Issei hesitated, unsure how to respond. However, the more he thought about it, the more he realized Ver was likely right. He might be targeted by Yuma again, making him a prime target. He didn't fully understand what it meant to have a sacred gear or a dragon inside him, but he knew he had stepped into a situation he couldn't escape. He sighed, looking at Ver with a mix of emotions. I understand. Issei finally said, Good. Spend this afternoon resting. Your roommates will ensure that you're safe. We're going to start your training as soon as possible to draw out your hidden power. This meeting is adjourned. Later that night, Vermillion sat in his office, finishing up the final documents he needed to complete. He received a phone call and answered it, surprised to see it was Rias Gremory. Hello, Vermillion speaking, he said. Oh come on Ver, I thought you knew me by now, Rias replied. Ver chuckled as he got up from his seat, walking to the window to gaze at the moon. Oh I do. What's the reason for calling me this late? I just wanted to check up on a friend and was curious about something, Rias said. What about this time? The last time you tried to recruit one of my members into your peerage, Ver teased. Rias laughed awkwardly on the other end. Yeah, sorry about that. I was curious about the fact that, originally, over here in Kuoh, we have an abandoned church, but no one has ever bothered to set foot in it. Though there was a girl who had situated herself there for a short PRD. Rias mentioned that the girl had blonde hair, green eyes, and appeared to be a nun, but she could tell that the girl possessed a sacred gear. Ver inquired about the type of sacred gear, and Rias explained that she believed it to be twilight healing. Ver noted that this sacred gear belonged to an exiled church member. Rias confirmed that the girl was Issei Argento and shared that she had managed to have one of her members follow Issei and ask her some questions. It turned out that Issei had come to Kuoh to catch a ride to Solei City, prompting Rias to give Ver a heads up. Ver expressed his appreciation for Rias's consideration and mentioned that he had things to take care of, but he might visit Kuoh once he was done. Rias welcomed the idea, and Ver wished her well before hanging up the phone. He found it strange that an exiled nun with the power of twilight healing was on her way to Solei City. It felt like more than just a coincidence. The recent murders of devil worshippers by a supposed rogue priest, the appearance of a fallen angel who had tried to kill Issei, and now Issei Argento's arrival all seemed connected. Ver thought to himself that everything wasn't adding up, but it couldn't just be a coincidence. If there was a group of fallen angels involved, and a rogue priest might be working for them, could the wielder of twilight healing also be part of it? Whatever the case, he knew his boss wouldn't be pleased once she learned what was happening. If they could stop these events before escalating and understand Issei Hyoudou's power, they might uncover the truth. Days had passed since Issei Hyoudou began his training under the student council's supervision. It was Friday afternoon, and he was jogging, feeling quite exhausted. Running alongside him was Vermilion, who appeared to be taking the exercise with minimal effort. Since Tuesday, Issei had been following a new routine dictated by the student council. Each day, he was required to head to the fields of ILUNA Academy for various exercises. From Monday to Friday, he would run for 2 hours and complete basic warm-up routines before school, followed by another 4 hours of exercises after classes, depending on who was supervising him that day. On weekends, he faced even more strenuous workouts for about 5 hours, with only brief breaks every 2 hours. Issei often cursed himself for having to endure such a demanding routine. Today was Ver's turn to supervise. After completing 10 laps around the field, Issei collapsed on his back, breathing heavily and feeling sore. Ver sat next to him, crossed his legs, and offered him a water bottle. Ver handed him the water, and Issei took it without hesitation, chugging it down. Once finished, he let out a sigh of relief, grateful to have completed his training for the day. Ver remarked that most people would have struggled more than Issei did. Issei, feeling frustrated, questioned why he had to train so hard. Ver reminded him of their earlier conversation about the dragon living inside him. He explained that in order to draw out that power, Issei needed to become physically stronger. The recent encounter with the fallen angel hadn't triggered the dragon's emergence, so they were starting from scratch to ensure they could access that power. Issei expressed his disappointment, wishing it could be simpler. Ver understood that Issei was new to this and reassured him that they would continue the routine until they could draw out his inner strength. While Issei rested, Ver decided to teach him about the threats they were facing. Ver explained the concept of the 3 factions in biblical beliefs: the angels of the angel faction, the fallen angels of the fallen angel faction, and the devils of the devil faction. Issei asked which faction they belonged to, and Ver chuckled, clarifying that they were part of a different faction that aimed to coexist with other mythologies and supernatural beings. However, due to the ongoing Cold War and mutual disdain among the factions, Ver's boss preferred to keep them at a distance. Issei was curious about Ver's boss, but Ver assured him that he would learn about her in due time. He then returned to the topic at hand. The Angels faction focuses on serving the biblical God and fulfilling his wishes, rarely intervening in mortal affairs and avoiding any actions that could lead them to become fallen. The fallen angels, while many seek forgiveness and strive to regain the biblical God's respect, have some who crave violence and war. The devils of the devil faction follow their own morals and beliefs. However, there is a significant backstory to their current situation. Issei gulped, trying to absorb the information being presented to him. Ver explained that the 3 factions had been at war with one another, with no resolution in sight. However, 2 powerful dragons, one brilliant white and the other a fierce red, managed to bring the conflict to a standstill. These two dragons were rivals, engaged in their own battles, but their destructive rampage forced the three factions to call a truce in order to defeat them. Ultimately, they succeeded in sealing the dragon souls into sacred gears, each possessing unique qualities. After this conflict, the factions were left weakened. The devils lost their original leaders and many of their powerful royal households. Consequently, they began turning humans into devils and other supernatural beings. The fallen angels had to reevaluate their choices, opting for a more peaceful approach. Meanwhile, the angels continued to uphold the biblical God's beliefs and ensure a peaceful existence in heaven. Issei was astonished. He couldn't believe that two dragons could weaken such powerful beings as angels, fallen angels, and devils. The outcome intrigued him, prompting him to ask a question. He inquired about the dragons supposedly residing within him and whether it could be a sacred gear. Ver confirmed that it was indeed possible, though they were uncertain about the specifics. They intended to draw out this power to understand it better. Ver explained that Issei was born with a power beyond human comprehension, which was why the fallen who attacked him had aimed to kill him. Issei questioned why the fallen would be present if their leader disapproved of any of the three factions entering their territory. Ver acknowledged this but clarified that the fallen was not alone. She had managed to infiltrate their domain undetected, carrying out a plan to eliminate Issei. Additionally, there had been recent murders linked to a rogue priest, suggesting that they were dealing with a group of fallen supported by this rogue priest. To prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead, Ver needed Issei to be ready. Issei contemplated this carefully. If what Ver said was true, he had no choice but to comply. He realized he had entered a world far beyond his understanding, and he could not turn back now. He looked at Ver and smiled lightly, affirming his commitment. "Yeah, I'll try to hold on to that promise," he said. Ver responded positively, pleased with Issei's determination. "We'll be counting on you, Issei," someone said. "Issei." The two turned their heads to see Maria Marionette calling out to Issei as she walked over to them. "Oh hey Mari. Don't worry, we just finished training for the day," Issei replied. "Oh, that's good to hear. Besides, I didn't want to cook alone with today's menu," Maria said. "Well, challenge accepted," Issei exclaimed, getting up to his feet, filled with energy. Ver chuckled a little, getting back up and dusting himself off. "Go on ahead, you two. I still have some unfinished business I need to attend to," Ver said. Both Maria and Issei nodded to Ver as they left. Ver could tell that Issei was definitely improving, but it wasn't simple or quick. It was clear from day one that Issei wasn't the type to exercise too much, though he could take some hits and had a bit of pain tolerance. However, Ver wasn't sure how long it would take to actually draw out Issei's sacred gear. This is going to be a time crunch, that much is for certain. I do wonder, what is their true goal? Time skip brought to you by Chibi Issei and Chibi Maria cooking together. It was currently reaching sunset as Doppio Dropscythe walked around, feeling relatively bored and sighing in aggravation. Throughout the week, due to Ver's orders, the rest of the student council had to take precautions and keep their eyes open for any suspicious activities. However, Doppio wasn't particularly interested in that order. Today, he was walking around certain districts to search for any suspicious activity, mainly because Ver recommended those areas. As far as Doppio was informed, a nun was supposed to arrive in Solii City, and Ver theorized that she might arrive sometime today. Their goal was to find her and keep a close eye on her to figure out why she would be traveling to Solii City in the first place. What initially caught Doppio's attention was what Ver had told him about this nun. Her name was Asia Argento, a young girl raised by the church under the guidance of the biblical God. She had a unique gift considered a blessing. Her sacred gear was known as Twilight Healing, which consisted of 2 rings that could heal any wound completely. It was unclear if there were any limitations, but the truth was a bit heartbreaking. She had been exiled from the church for healing a devil, which led them to consider her a devil worshipper or someone who had the power to heal devils. Doppio couldn't deny that it was rather sad the more he thought about it, as his history wasn't too different, aside from the whole church and religious aspect. He shook it off as he walked around the Solii City train station, looking for anyone who might stand out. After spending a few minutes searching the station without success, he began rubbing his head in frustration. God damn it. I get that she might be someone we are supposed to look out for, but couldn't we just ask someone else to do this? I'm literally losing my patience here. Doppio exclaimed, frustration evident in his tone. In his distraction, he accidentally bumped into someone, causing her to fall onto the ground. Ow! A soft feminine voice came from the girl he had knocked over. Doppio looked down and noticed a headpiece that could only belong to a nun. He quickly focused on the girl, who was rubbing her forehead as if she had walked into a brick wall. Her long golden blonde hair caught his attention, but it was her green eyes that truly fascinated him. Sorry, she stammered. Doppio sighed and helped her up, picking up the headpiece and handing it to her. Don't be. I wasn't paying attention to where I was going, he said, feeling a bit guilty. No, it's my fault too for not looking. I apologize, I just arrived and… Is this Solii City? She asked. Yep. This is Solii City. You have some form of business or something? Doppio replied, trying to maintain a cold and distant tone, though she seemed oblivious to his mood. Wait. I'm Asia Argento, and I'm looking for the nearest church around here. Do you perhaps know where that is? She asked, her nervousness evident. Doppio rubbed the back of his neck, trying to figure out how to handle the situation. He recognized her as the nun he was supposed to look out for, and interacting with her felt like bad luck. Still, he decided to play along for now. I do. Though it is slightly outside the city, as far as I can recall. Do you want me to take you there? He offered. That would be wonderful, thank you, Asia replied, her smile brightening. Doppio began to lead Asia in the direction of the church. From what he could tell, the Solii City train station was on the far west side of the city, and the church she was referring to was also located a bit outside the city, making it important information to report to Ver. As they walked through the forest after an hour or two, Asia decided to strike up a conversation, sensing that Doppio wasn't the type to initiate dialogue. She felt a bit awkward in the silence and wanted to ease the tension. So, do you have a name? She asked. Doppio. Doppio Dropscythe, he replied. That's actually a unique and interesting name. Do you perhaps attend a school? She inquired. So what if I do? He responded, a hint of defensiveness in his tone. I was just curious. Asia said, looking away, realizing he might not want to talk. I attend ILUNA Academy. I'm a first year there, he added after a moment. Is the school nice? She asked, her gentle smile encouraging him to open up. Oh, it is, he shrugged, keeping his hands in his pockets. What's it like there? She pressed. The education is decent. The rules are basic at best, and there tends to be no trouble there. I would say it might be one of the better schools out there, he explained. It sounds wonderful, she said, her enthusiasm evident. As they continued through the forest, they eventually reached a church that appeared run down. The bricks were crumbling, and vegetation had overtaken the structure. Asia walked ahead slightly and turned to Doppio, giving a respectful bow. Thank you for showing me here. I really appreciate it, she said sincerely. You don't have to thank me, Asia. I really need to get going though. Doppio replied. Oh, of course. I didn't mean to take up your time since it got dark, she said, a hint of regret in her voice. It's fine. I'm used to staying up late most nights. Do take care, he said, turning to leave and raising a hand in farewell. Wait a moment, please. Asia called out, stopping him in his tracks. Doppio turned his head slightly to look at her. Can we meet again sometime? I know I'll be really busy, but I really do want to get to know you. You have a kind soul and a good heart, she said, her sincerity shining through. Doppio's face turned red for a moment as he turned away, trying to hide his embarrassment. He gritted his teeth, feeling frustrated that she could see through his strict demeanor. After a moment of silence, he finally responded. Sure. Whenever you're free, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, he felt a rush of movement as Asia hugged him from behind, catching him completely off guard. Thank you, she exclaimed. Sure, he stammered, flustered. She released him and quickly turned to walk towards the church. Once she was out of sight, Doppio hurried away, making sure he wasn't followed. He now knew that the nun they had to keep an eye on would be residing in this abandoned church located west of the city, deep within the forest. He also realized he needed to inform Ver about the situation. Unbeknownst to him, Iroha Kazama was perched on a tree branch, observing Doppio from the treeline, her curiosity piqued by this unexpected development. It seems that both sides are slowly but surely beginning to know one another, she mused to herself. Rainer's group and the Solio group will be dealing with each other from here on out. Though the results still remain interesting, a black crow landed on her shoulder, and she smiled a little at the bird. Iroha pondered aloud about the unfolding events, curious about who would emerge victorious in the ongoing conflict. After her musings, she stood up and leapt from branch to branch, ensuring she wasn't seen. It was now Sunday, and Issei Hyoudou was in Solii Park, doing push-ups while Zayn Lanza sat on top of him with her legs crossed. She had her arms crossed as well, counting in her head how many push-ups he had completed. It was the middle of the day, and Issei struggled to keep up with the regimen. Issei grunted, "Why are you so heavy?" Zayn scoffed, taking offense. "You're just pitiful. You're a pervert trying to spy on other girls, yet you never bother to improve yourself to get their attention. Quite a problem you have here." "How dare you?" Issei replied, trying to catch his breath. "Remember, I'm in charge of your training today. I can't believe I have to train a pervert like you," Zayn said with a sigh. Soon enough, Issei collapsed, breathing heavily as he rolled onto his back. Zayn looked down at him, noting his exhaustion. "We're on a time crunch. You need to take this more seriously." Issei sat up, glaring at her. "Hey, you make this seem easy. A pipsqueak? Let me remind you that I am in charge here. You don't get a say in how I train you." Zayn retorted, ruffling her hair in annoyance as she turned around, hands in her pockets. "Whatever. I'm giving you a small break. But after that, we're training until midnight." "Midnight? Why so late?" Issei exclaimed. "If we're trying to unlock that sacred gear of yours, we need as much time as possible. I'm not taking no for an answer." With that, she walked off, leaving Issei to grit his teeth in frustration. He sighed heavily, feeling exhausted after a week of training. He contemplated whether he was making the right choice or if he was making any progress at all. "Hey, Zayn. Can I talk to you for a minute?" Issei called out as he got up and hurried to her. She turned around, narrowing her eyes. "What is it?" she asked. Issei looked at her for a moment before glancing down, trying to catch his breath. "I'm sorry." Zayn raised an eyebrow, confused about why he was apologizing. Issei continued, "I usually never share my personal feelings, but I need to get this off my chest. I'm sorry for being such a handful. I was sent here to Solii, hoping for a fresh start, according to my parents. Yes, I am a massive pervert, but it helps me be myself. I'm trying my best to keep it under control. I haven't been caught out yet, have I?" "You haven't," Zayn shrugged. "Now, after learning that the supernatural exists and that I'm part of it, how else am I supposed to act? This is overwhelming. I almost died, but your president saved my life. I owe him that much, but I don't know if I have what it takes to access this power. I don't want to cause trouble for my family again, even if I was a target for these supposed fallen. Maybe I've been too much of a pain for you all already. For not making much progress." Zayn could tell that Issei was being genuine. She debated whether to cut him some slack or remain stern. Finally, she spoke, "Listen, I'm not one to open up much either, but I'll give you my opinion. I despise perverts like you who spy on other girls, thinking you can do things your way. However, it takes guts to open up to. I know you feel indebted to Ver, but he isn't expecting too much from you. We're taking simple steps to help you utilize the power within you. Once we've unlocked that power, Ver will explain the next step. You may not have natural magic, but that doesn't mean you can't learn it." "What?" Issei asked, surprised. "Learning the basics can help you understand things better, which will prepare you for foes you don't understand. But to do that, we need to unlock that power. Don't do it for the president, do it for what you believe is right. Focusing on yourself instead of the outside world will yield better results in your training. That's the only advice I'm giving you." Issei listened, mostly speechless. He understood that she despised him, but he didn't expect her to offer genuine advice. He chuckled a little, which made Zayn raise an eyebrow in confusion. "What's so funny?" she asked. "Oh, to be honest, you're actually a lot kinder than you seem. I think it's cute," Issei admitted. Zayn's eyes widened in surprise, her face heating up as she struggled to find words. She rarely received compliments like that. When Issei realized what he had said, he felt awkward and tried to clarify. "Wait a moment. I didn't mean it like that. I meant dash." Out of nowhere, Zayn punched him in the face, causing him to fall onto his rear end and yelp as he held his cheek in pain. "What was that for?" Issei exclaimed, his face contorted in surprise. Zayn glared at him, her face still burning red with anger. "You dare try to flirt with me, perv?" "No. I wasn't trying to," Issei stammered, his voice shaky. "You think you can win any girl's heart just like that? How about I make your training twice as hard today?" Zayn challenged. Issei's face turned pale at her words. "Oh no. I'm so in trouble." Later, it was the dead of night, and Vermilion sat in his office, listening to reports from Doppio Dropscythe and Moloko Kurin. He rested his elbows on the desk, his hands supporting his head as he looked at the two. "So Asia Argento has mostly been held up in that abandoned church during her time here?" Ver inquired. "Yeah. She hasn't really left the church often, but she has ventured into the city limits to explore from time to time. I haven't talked to her yet because I could tell someone was watching over her," Doppio replied. "I can agree with this, Prez. While I tend to walk around at night, I sense the presence of multiple fallen angels. I could count at least 4. They haven't fully revealed themselves yet, except for the one that attacked Issei," Moloko added. "I see. Well, we can confirm that we're definitely dealing with a group. However, we don't know where they're based at the moment. Moloko, I need you to investigate further to find out where they usually meet so we can plan our next move. We need to converge on them as soon as possible," Ver instructed. "Of course, Prez," Moloko responded before leaving the office. Ver sighed, leaning back in his chair and staring at the ceiling. Doppio noticed something was troubling Ver and decided to speak up. "Something wrong, Prez?" Doppio asked. "Yeah. I sometimes feel the cries of certain souls. Their lives taken away one by one. If we don't stop this soon, she will have to step in. I know we don't want her involved in this situation, given her history with the 3 factions." Ver admitted. "Dealing with these crows is proving to be a pain. The more we investigate, the more they seem to be on the move. They must have a nest somewhere," Doppio observed. "That's the issue. I suspect they could be near that abandoned church where you guided Asia Argento. Moloko will investigate further to determine where they seem to go. If my theory is correct, they might be roosting at that church, which means they also have access to the Twilight Healing. If this is true, we will need a plan to get her out of their grasp. The fallen can be more malicious and twisted than either angels or devils. Sometimes even demons can't match their strange machinations. As much as I want to inform the Governor General of the fallen angel faction, I suspect someone within their ranks is orchestrating this." Ver explained. Doppio narrowed his eyes, his grip on his crossed arms tightening. He understood that Ver wanted to ensure a more peaceful society for everyone, both within and outside the supernatural, just like the boss who hired them. "We don't need to inform that BSTRD. We can resolve this ourselves anyway." "You know that as well as I do, Prez," Doppio replied. "I'm aware, but this threat seems to originate from somewhere. I have a suggestion, but I'm not sure if you'll like it," Ver said. "Go on," Doppio urged. Ver stood up and walked over to Doppio, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I need you to keep a closer eye on Asia Argento. If you see an opportunity to hang out with her, take it." "What? Why would I?" Doppio began to protest. "The plan is simple. You get closer to Asia Argento without being seen with us, and you lure out some crows. Think you can handle that?" Ver explained. Doppio gritted his teeth, pushing Ver's hand away as he turned to leave the office. "Fine. I'll see what I can do." Once Doppio left, Ver sighed again, rubbing his eyes. He usually maintained a cool demeanor, but today felt different as he was reminded of his power. While he used magic, His sacred gear often had profound effects on him. It seems to be getting worse. Sacred gears are meant to be blessings, but I consider mine a curse. Every power comes with a cost. He shook his head, trying to remain calm. It's still controllable. I need to keep a cool head. Now that I think about it, Zayn should be back around now. Just then, Zayn opened the door and closed it behind her. Ah, perfect timing. How was the training with Issei? Ver asked. Annoying. However, he's making progress, Zayn replied, scoffing. That's good to hear. But where is he? Ver inquired. He wanted to walk alone to reflect or something like that, Zayn explained. So you left him alone? Ver asked, concern creeping into his voice. Zayn shrugged. He said he would head back once he cleared his head. My training was probably a little too rough for him. Ver walked toward the window, looking out at the moon with narrowed eyes, sensing a strange disturbance. Leaving Issei alone was probably the worst mistake we could have made, Zayn. I have a feeling he might be in trouble. Go look for him and make sure he's safe. Zayn sighed in frustration. Why do I always have to keep an eye on him? Because I know you're the best at what you do. I can't trust Issei on his own just yet, Ver replied. Once they unlocked that sacred gear of his, they would be able to leave him alone for a while. Zayn scoffed and left the office, slamming the door behind her. Ver thought to himself, feeling uneasy about the situation. Currently it was midnight, and Issei Hyoudou was walking alone in a quieter part of the city, closer to the beach. He found himself staring at the ocean, lost in deep thought. The chilling breeze of the night tousled his hair as he contemplated the training he was supposed to undertake. His mind was focused on understanding what he needed to unlock. Sacred gears were unique gifts given to humanity by the biblical God to protect them from the potential war between the three factions. His sacred gear was linked to a powerful dragon, one that could rival all supernatural beings in raw power. This notion made him feel as though he was destined for greatness, yet it was also nerve-wracking. It sounded impressive to wield the power of one of the most formidable beings in existence. However, that very power had made him a target for Yuma. He kept referring to the fallen angel as Yuma, as that was all he knew her by. The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. A fallen angel had disguised herself as a normal girl, only to trick him, toy with his heart, and nearly kill him. This realization instilled a deep fear within him. At times, his body shook, whether from fear or anger at being deceived, he couldn't tell. He now understood that even women in this world could be cruel and manipulative, making him reconsider his dreams. While training with the student council, or Solial as they called themselves, he tried to keep his emotions in check and focus on the present. Yet, he couldn't shake the thought of the dangers he was facing. This night was one of the few times he could think in peace, perhaps finding some clarity. He had never been given the proper time to reflect on his situation. He didn't know what he had gotten himself into, but he was beginning to believe everything that had happened to him. Starting off as the typical pervert had been an odd beginning, leading him to a city where he learned the hidden truths of the world. He was trying his best to start anew, but it seemed this was going to be his new life, whether he liked it or not. Issei? He blinked a few times and turned around, surprised to see Issei Hyoudou. Oh, Issei, I didn't expect to see you here late at night. Neither did I expect you here. But why are you all the way out here? He sighed, glancing at the ocean. I have been going through some things recently. Oh really? How so? I don't know if you'd really believe me if I told you. Issei walked up to him, offering her hand in comfort. He blushed at the sudden closeness. I don't care if I don't understand. Friends are supposed to help and care for each other, right? I don't get to talk to many people often, so consider this my free time. She looked down, realizing what she was doing, and backed up a bit, blushing as her fins flicked up and down, showing her awkwardness. Sorry, I got a bit carried away there. I just wanted to show that I'm here for you. If you wanted to talk. He smiled warmly. Thanks, I appreciate it. She smiled back, nodding. So, what's the problem? Well, before he could continue, the atmosphere shifted, and the air felt heavier. The sky took on a purple hue, and even the moon glowed violet. What's going on? This pressure. Could it be? I see that Rainier wasn't wrong about you surviving. They turned to see a mature woman with long blue hair flowing in the breeze, dressed in somewhat revealing attire. Her eyes were hidden in the shadows of her hair, but her dark angelic wings spread out like a crow ready to take flight. A fallen angel? So the president wasn't far off. No way. I thought fallen angels weren't allowed into this city. Wait, Finana? You know about? A yellow spear of light was thrown at them, and Issei reacted immediately, grabbing Finana and dodging out of the way. The spear struck the ground where they had been standing. Are you okay? Yeah. But why is she here? He looked at the fallen angel as her yellow eyes pierced through them. Are you coming back to finish whatever Yuma started? Yuma? Oh, you must mean Rainier. No, in fact, I came here to see for myself. I didn't believe Rainier's words at first when she failed to kill you. No one is around to help you this time. Even though you seem to have an Atlantean with you, she doesn't seem that strong. Atlantean? He glanced at Finana, who looked a bit guilty for not telling him. He smiled reassuringly at her as he got back on his feet. Don't worry, you can tell me later. For now. He turned to face the fallen angel with determination. I have to take you down. Finana looked at him in surprise, seeing how brave he was being in that moment. However, her thoughts briefly wandered, and she had to shake her head to clear it. The fallen angel scoffed, declaring herself as Cal Warner. She warned Issei that she would ensure he was gone for good, despite Rainier's reluctance to share her humiliation. Cal Warner began to form more spears of light, targeting Issei as he dodged them. One spear grazed his cheek, and she remarked on his endurance, noting that few humans could withstand such an attack. Issei thought to himself, frustrated by his lack of access to his sacred gear. He realized that Cal Warner was maintaining her distance, and he felt helpless. Just then, a memory surfaced in his mind. It was Saturday, the day before, during training with Moloko Kyurin. She had initially made him do physical training but was now trying to help him focus on something deeper. Issei struggled to concentrate, letting out an angry grunt. Moloko observed him and sighed, knowing she needed to intervene. She told Issei that he was overthinking things. Annoyed, he sat beside her on the grass while she perched on a rock, using her umbrella to shield herself from the sun. Issei expressed his frustration, insisting he was focusing, but Moloko explained that understanding sacred gears required more than just concentration. She calmly elaborated that sacred gears were gifts from God but required emotional understanding to unlock their true potential. Emotions, she explained, varied from person to person and were the driving force behind improvement and adaptation. Sacred gears were extensions of oneself, and their power could be unlocked through various emotional stimuli, whether positive or negative. Moloko emphasized that true strength came from the determination to protect others and the impact of loss. As the memory faded, Issei returned to the present moment, feeling a surge of determination. Cal Warner, noticing Finana, smirked and declared it was time for suffering. Issei's thoughts raced as he realized he had to save Finana. When a spear was thrown at her, he instinctively raised his arms to block it. Just as the spear was about to hit, a bright green light enveloped the area, causing the spear to shatter and knocking Cal Warner back in confusion. When the light faded, Issei stood in a defensive posture, staring at his left arm, which was now adorned with a red gauntlet radiating power. He was astonished, and Finana, equally surprised, questioned if it was indeed a sacred gear. Cal Warner, realizing the implications, was furious and took to the air, declaring she had no time for him and would leave him for someone else to deal with later. As the night returned to normal, Issei helped Finana to her feet, still in shock over his newfound power. She asked if he had had a sacred gear all along, to which he admitted it was his first time experiencing it. Just then, another voice chimed in, identifying the gauntlet as a twice critical. Ver appeared through circular glyphs, smiling at them. Issei and Finana were surprised to see him, both exclaiming his name. Ver chuckled, assuring them that everything would be explained in his office. Issei, still feeling a mix of emotions, questioned how long Ver had been watching. Ver casually replied that he had been observing since the beginning. Issei sighed, grappling with the situation. Anna, reflecting on Issei's bravery, felt a strange admiration for him. She quickly clapped her cheeks, trying to shake off her feelings, reminding herself that he was just a friend, even though deep down, she felt something more. Issei Hyoudou was a 17-year-old human who had a reputation for being a bit of a troublemaker. Known for his tendency to get into awkward situations, he was often labeled as a pervert. However, beneath that exterior, he was genuinely a good person, and those who took the time to know him could see that. Recently, Issei found himself in a predicament at Kuoh Academy, where his antics had escalated to the point that he risked being expelled after his first year. In an effort to turn things around, he transferred to ILUNA Academy, hoping for a fresh start in an environment with a more balanced ratio of male to female students. Although he would miss the memories he had made at Kuoh, he was determined to make the most of this new opportunity. At ILUNA, Issei began to forge unexpected friendships with classmates, which helped him adapt to his new surroundings. Despite his desire to become the harem king, a dream that lingered in his mind, he soon realized that achieving this goal would not be as simple as he had hoped. Along the way, he would learn to harness the power of the Red Dragon Emperor, Draig, while navigating various supernatural challenges that stood in his way. As he continued his journey, Issei understood that the path to becoming the harem king would be filled with obstacles, but he was ready to face them head-on.